Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 216th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings, and coming along for the ride this evening, and what a ride it promises to be, we have Adam Smido Smith, Ben, Dave the Hater Lowback, Andy Patterson, and just jumped on the call before we started, Donny Baseball. Right, guys, I know I say this at the beginning of every show, and you're probably sick of listening to me and all that, but don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, especially on these last couple of weeks or so, because last week we seemed to have a problem at the beginning with the YouTube page, and then this week we had to change the Hangout at the last minute because for some reason it was only getting up to a certain percentage, and I don't know what YouTube are playing at the moment. So if you subscribe on the YouTube page, if we have to change anything mid-show, at the end of the show, at the beginning, you'll get notified straight away to your phone or your computer. So that's why it's important to subscribe. So enough of that type of nonsense anyway. Let's get on with the boxing. There's only one place we can really start. I know Garcia Thurman fought at the weekend, but it's got to be Tony Bellew and David Haye from the O2 Arena, the old London. Bit of pay-per-view action. I was actually at a show last night, so I was watching a stream up until about round 7, and it started to mess up, and it was intermittent. And when I got home, I watched the end on YouTube, so I haven't really watched the show, the fight in its entirety all the way through. So I'm hoping the guys can fill in the gaps of any narrative issues that I have here. Andy, I know for a fact you saw it, and a lot of people are raging about the result and whatever, but we've got to give Tony his props. Not many people. I know Smido picked Mr. Bellew to win. We're going to come to him next. But Andy, first of all, what were your impressions of the night overall? No real questions. Just tell me about this Haye Bellew fight, what you saw through your eyes.
Just the Haye Bellew fight, mate, or you don't want me to go balls deep on the pay-per-view itself?
You go balls deep on whatever you want, but start with Haye Bellew.
Right.
I thought he was going to say you go balls deep on whatever you want, but just start with my anus.
Only if you lube it up, mate, and you shave your fucking arse hair off. Right, the main event itself, right, okay, how can I start? Well, it was pure carnage last night. All I had a fucking shot in there, in pubs, on Twitter. It was just absolute fucking bedlam. The bookies must have been laughing this morning. Actually, they were having Dom Perry on last night, fucking 54 years and all that sort of shit. It was unbelievable what I watched last night. I mean, David Haye came out there fighting like a drunk in a bar, just well shots. I kind of thought maybe the news during the week about him going to Germany was just basically to hype the pay-per-view sales. So, maybe he was injured in the fight. That's his problem. Fair play to him for not saying after the fight that he wasn't injured and stuff, or was injured at hampered him and all that sort of shit. But you could tell that he really wanted to kind of tell everybody what happened to him. I think that's the reason why he came out there basically fucking winging for the fences last night, right for the first round. He was sloppy. He didn't seem to be as sharp as he has been in the past. Bellew he also had a game plan. He stuck to it. He stuck behind his jab. Since heard that Bellew's apparently broke a small bone in his right hand around about the third or the fourth round. Because at one point I was going mental. At one point, you could see that you had a man here who was basically incapacitated. He couldn't move. He couldn't get his shots off properly. So I was saying to myself, okay, just step in, Tony. Just fucking end him. Just put him out his misery. But then obviously if the hand's a problem, he's not wanting to walk into a big shot or whatever. But at the same time, I don't think Haye could get a shot off. People are saying that I've not seen the official scorecards, but apparently Haye was in front. Personally, I think after six rounds, I think you've got to have Bellew up by at least a couple, maybe by a point or two, definite. Haye, I suppose he took a bit of a shellacking in the 6th and the 7th. I don't know what happened. He's bounced back. I think he might have took a shot. He's bounced back on his back leg. It looks like the ankles went. I seen AJ saying, for instance, I think he was talking about how he must have been like he's got a PhD in physical science or something, because he was saying, it was definitely the knee that went. I know guys who say this and say that. Next minute you get a fucking a slow motion replay, and there's Shane wrapping up the ankle. So AJ needs to kind of leave the physiological side of stuff out of the game. But I suppose you've got to give props to Tony of some sort. I mean, everybody knows it depends what side of the fence you sit on, really. If you're a big Haye hater, you're going to fucking go balls deep on Tony and fucking really, savage Haye or whatever. You can give Haye a lot of props as well for fucking hanging in there for, 5-6 rounds by a bad ankle. The people say, give Tony credit, but I remember people saying as well, they didn't give Ricky Burns credit for beating Nicky Cook. People didn't give Cotto credit for beating Foreman and Sergio. Barker against Stern. So that type of thing. So it really depends. It says what side the fence you sit on. Fair fucks to Tony, man. He's these last 18 months, he's really fucking turned it back. after the fight, I thought was pretty cringe, though. I think we're watching two guys there who actually knew themselves that if they probably won the lottery there last night. You know, they've got a good backstory to get a rematch made. You know, if Haye can somehow physically get back into shape and stuff, I personally think that's it for him. I don't want to see a rematch. I didn't even really want to see the first fight. I've no desire to see a rematch. Haye, you know, it's time for him to retire. Bellew, he's made a fortune. God knows what he's going to do next. I know he spoke about getting out within the next year or whatever and stuff, but, you know, really he can pick up any fight that he wants now, I suppose. Dillian White's calling him out, talking about Wilder and all that sort of shit after the fight. But I suppose, you know, probably the best thing that happened to that card last night is entirely, you know, it was shit. The pay-per-view was shit in total. The best thing that happened there last night was Tony mugging off Eddie Hearn at the end, you know, and Eddie fucking walking away, fucking biscuit faced and all that sort of shit, you know, really heartbroken. So it was good to see that he couldn't fucking move his eyes as well. He said Botox down his eyes and that, so he can't move his face properly and stuff. So it was good to see Plastic Face getting mugged off by Tony last night. But as I say, it was a complete and utter. It was a shit pay-per-view. The main event was okay, I suppose. I was talking to casuals today who actually paid for it. I just said it was a great fight and all that sort of stuff. Well, you know, that's their opinion. I thought personally it was a pretty average fight. You know, Tony did what he had to do. Haye, as I say, is bitterly disappointing. But as I say, you know, he's battled through as best he can. Maybe Shane McGuigan. Did anybody see him after the fight decking the punter walking back? Oh, it was fucking tremendous. That's about the second best thing that happened there last night. So, all in all, poor pay-per-view. Haye should hang them up, and Bellew just continues to roll on. So, fair play to him.
A guy who's not a boxing fan in my work actually sent me a WhatsApp message last night. I thought it was quite funny. He's a football fan, but he doesn't follow the boxing or anything. But whenever it's on Twitter and it's all blowing up and everyone's talking about it, he'd sort of follow along. He WhatsApp messaged me last night and he said that was the best Scouser versus one-leg battle since Paul McCartney versus Heather Mills in the divorce court.
That was a good one, eh?
I thought that was quite a good one. So shout out to your man James for that one. Right, Smitho, not many people picked Tony Bellew, but one person who did was the betting guru. That's you. Now, Smitho, tell me this, right? A lot of people thought that Haye was going to win. The majority of people thought Haye was going to win. Even up for Bellew the week later, we've got these polls that were saying 51% Haye, 49% Bellew, and they were nominated because people thought this was an absolute joke. Do you think, Smitho, that it's all to do with the injury and Tony got lucky? Or do you think the boxing hardcore maybe needs to take a look at itself? I include myself in this, by the way. You know, I'm not exempt from criticism. I thought Haye would bang him out in a few rounds. But do you think there was a sort of an elitist attitude, maybe even an arrogance in some parts, that the hardcore fraternity has been outmaneuvered a little bit? Or what do you think, Smitho?
That's an interesting question about the hardcores, because what we've got to remember is a section of the hardcore fraternity, as you may call them, actually have warmed to Tony Bellew over the last couple of years. He's appeared on a podcast or two, not this one, and you know he's almost become, you know, a reverse villain sort of thing. So that's an interesting point. Yeah, I call Bellew to win. I'll tell you why I call Bellew to win, because Haye has not fought anyone with a pulse since 2012. That was Derek Chisora, and in that fight, I thought Haye looked slower than his prime, and I thought Haye actually got rattled in one of those rounds against Chisora. I mentioned that last week. And I think since then, he's obviously been off for a long time. He's got significantly older. He's got significantly bigger, and he's had injuries and some surgery, well-known surgery, and there's probably some stuff going on that we didn't know about. So that was my reason for picking Bellew. I knew that I was not under no illusions. You know, I wasn't saying that Bellew should be favourite and Bellew's going to, you know, bang him out. He would probably need a bit of luck along the way. As for the fight, I thought Bellew actually started very well. I thought he started superb. Haye was winging away wide and slowish punches, and Bellew was trying to, you know, out-cute him a little bit, and he was countering quite well. And I think there's a genuine argument that Bellew probably won, two, maybe three, definitely two in my book. Won 2 rounds, you know, before this said injury occurred in the 5th, I think. So I think regardless of any injury, I think at the time when his Achilles are supposedly snapped or whatever, or been ruptured, Bellew was definitely well in the fight, and at that time it had already gone a lot longer than you know many expected. Haye in 3, Haye in 4 was the kind of prediction, and we'd already gone past that before the injury occurred. Once it did, it turned into a bit ugly, really. Bellew could have probably done it a little bit earlier, but he didn't need to take any risk. Haye was, plodding along literally on one leg and trying to throw haymakers, pardon the pun, wherever he could. Bellew did take some decent punches. He did, he swallowed them up quite well. His chin performed quite well, to be fair, before and after the so-called injury. So you've got to say fair play to Bellew. He has been the more active fighter. You do not win fights on the scales or in magazines.
It showed last night.
Yeah, you win fights in the ring, and I was being honest. When I put in the group on Thursday, I think, before the weigh-in, I actually grown in confidence that Bellew would win during the week. I did back Bellew, and at 6-1, you don't need to be having a lot of money on. You don't need to be having hundreds on. I've had an half decent win, and I backed him earlier in the week at 5-1, and then I backed him again at 6-1, and I was quite happy with that. For obvious reasons. I've had a lot of thinking today, about how I was going to play it. I was pretty much certainly the only one on here. I was pretty much the only one on Twitter that was picking him. But I'm just being honest. Obviously, there's been a slight bit of luck, but what you have to factor in really is that David Haye has got a checkered history with pulling out of fights and injuries and excuses, whether they're genuine excuses or not, or whether we think they're poor excuses or not. He has got a history of doing that. He's been out the ring a long time. Them 2 fights that he's had, previous to Bellew, you can't really read anything into them. He's had everything his own way there. The one thing Bellew was going to do was try and put it on Haye at some stage, and then we would find out how good Haye is, how fast he is, how his body would hold up, and his body didn't hold up. And I think that injuries and age and stuff like that do need to be factored in. And we've all got caught up in the story was simple for people. Haye looks $1 million, punches hard, is the more natural heavyweight, not the natural heavyweight, but the more natural heavyweight. And it was it was an easy sell. Obviously, Haye last night has had to swallow a massive humble pie because, as Andy said in the interview after the fight, I think Haye wanted to say, "Oh, I've had a problem, but I went ahead anyway." But he didn't. To be fair, I'm just uncomfortable with the old bullshit. Really, we've had WWE tactics all week: shouting, swearing, offending people, racism, fat, black, white, green, yellow. We've had it all. The whole spectrum all week, and then they're there kissing, smiling, and hugging. And like Andy says, they both won the goddamn lottery, and they might go and win the lottery again in a rematch. I mean, so the whole thing just becomes embarrassing. As for the pay-per-view, I've never ever been prouder to say that I'm a member of Team Stream now, because that last night was an abomination. It was absolutely embarrassing from top to bottom, and we saw it coming. We saw it coming as well. There's got Derry Matthews is a shot fighter. Paulie Malignaggi is a shot fighter, and it's turned out that David Haye is a shot fighter. So, as my new friend Shep said today, that the 3 main fights on the card, all of the losers are, more than likely, all 3 of them are going to retire. We won't ever see them in a ring again. And some people, and quite a lot of people, have paid 17 quid or whatever it is to watch that last night. I think the whole thing's embarrassing. I didn't listen to a single second of commentary last night at all. And the only time I put the sound on was for the post-fight interviews, to be honest. All night.
See, the thing is, see, at the start of the night, what do you call her again? Is it Anna Woolhouse, what we fucking call her? See, when the show started and stuff, we've got a great card for you, it's full of prospects. Fuck, that's a pay-per-view card for you, full of prospects. A fucking woman, no disrespect to her, a woman chief fucking support to that bill last night.
Yeah.
Against some spectacular tattooed fuckwit.
Well, yeah, it looked like she'd just broken out of prison, Katie Taylor's opponent. But I mean, just on the pay-per-view, and I said this last week, and we all predicted it was a shit undercard. There is no coincidence that the last 2 times Eddie Hearn has done a joint promoted pay-per-view, the undercards have been shocking. I was at, and I paid good money to watch Frampton Quigg last year, and I'm telling you now, I cannot remember an undercard fight. I couldn't name you one now without looking on BoxRec. Last night was disgusting, and last February, almost a year to the day, was also the last joint promoted pay-per-view. That was disgusting as well. The one thing that I would say is AJ pay-per-views. We know he's the golden boy. Blah blah blah. They are actually significantly better than what we're seeing, on non-AJ pay-per-views, if you see what I mean. A chief support, really, and I've been speaking with Dale Nichols on Twitter. He's a hater of pay-per-view, like many are, and he's been talking to me, and the chief support, taking out Katie Taylor, that was a little bit of a float last night, Eggington, Molinari in my mind. The chief support should be easily good enough to be a Saturday night headliner on its own. If it was on a Saturday night headliner, but just running you through some of the chief supports we've had under the Hearn monopoly, we've had Triple G Brook was Haskins against Hull. Brazil Joshua was Groves against Murray. Joshua Molina was Chisora against White, which only ended up being a bit of a classic by look almost. Joshua Martin was a cracking one. Groves and Brophy. So there's a bit of a theme here going with Groves, even though he's not a matchroom fighter. Quigg and Frampton was Gavin McDonald against Jorge Sanchez. As I said, I wouldn't have been able to remember that. So if I wasn't reading off a list, I wouldn't be able to remember that. We've had some absolute shockers, and I think that last night was the worst. Final point on pay-per-view, and yes. this makes the problem, it highlights it even more. Eddie said this week regarding James DeGale, we've discussed some dates and I've pitched him some pay-per-view dates. So the point being, what are we in a situation now where we have pay-per-view fighters that are given pay-per-view dates and pay-per-view money, and then we decide who their opponent is after? I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. It's conning the public, and I don't really know whether to laugh or cry anymore, Steve, to be honest.
Well, when it comes to pay-per-view, I know the Americans pay through the nose, but I mean, Don King used to put on like 5 world title fights on one pay-per-view and stuff like that. I mean, that's not the standard, obviously, if you're paying 17 quid, Andy, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's the type of thing that they were dishing up.
I mean, I can't remember how much he was charging for his pay-per-views. The Yanks will be able to tell us, but we got a few of his cards on ITV back in the day. It was, as you say, you had Terry Norris, Julian Jackson, General McClellan. Fucking some good fights, as you say, stacked cards as well. I think even back in the day, some of the heavyweights that obviously had a lock on it. So we got a lot of those cards for nothing.
We're not even talking after the event either. We're not even being clever after the event. We knew this last night's undercard was shit. We're not just we're not saying, oh well, we've got some Mexican who's managed to last 12 rounds and Lee Selby was unlucky getting against a tough guy and it was a bit boring. We knew it was going to be shit, and so it turned out.
Well, Smido, one thing I will pick up on before we move on to our other panel members that you said, which I think was true, was the immediate respect after the fight thing. I see all these videos on YouTube. Oh, great respect after the grudge, great respect. It was a totally contrived grudge. We all knew that. There wasn't the animosity there. It was all built. And the fact they were hugging and kissing straight afterwards, it makes me feel like a mug. I'm thinking to myself, so everything that's happened before the fight is bullshit. It's all made up. None of it's true. So why do people keep on falling for this before every fight? Because straight away, it was all forgotten about.
Well, apparently it's done good numbers, which again it continues the cycle. It is, people not have bought into bullshit.
You don't understand, Steve. The war that they had took so much out of them, and it was just so transformative to both of their souls that they realized how much respect they had for each other during those 11 rounds of battle.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's one way of putting it, Dave. Right, Dave, listen, let me ask you this question. We have a special guest on the line. I'm going to get to him next, but let me get you in first, Hater. Question coming from Ben Thorns before we started, which I want to ask you. He says, could David Haye, with no Achilles tendon, beat all of Anthony Joshua's opponents to date?
I'm honestly really not sure. I mean, we're talking about Haye right now. No, I'm not sure. I think he's past it. I also think he's never been special at heavyweight. He's always going to have struggled with bigger men. Soon, one of Anthony Joshua's opponents is going to be Vlad, and we know Haye can't beat him. Couldn't even really come close. I just think Haye's not a great heavyweight and never has been, never will be. So
a chemically induced heavyweight.
Yeah, I think I would suspect so too, but there's no proof of that. But either way, I mean,
the eye test, Dave. It's all about the eye test, mate.
Did you like his tits, Dave? He had nice breasts, didn't they?
Listen, my wife almost flooded her love tunnel by the way when Dave Haye was on that fucking scales. Swear to God, man. Hey, am I right?
Doesn't that make you jealous?
Come here and tell the boys what you did. There we go. I see.
Andy, my missus fancies Eddie Hearn, so we've got a full house between us.
Right, Eddie Hearn's got the Botox and stuff like that, and he's fat about the belly. What are you saying? Speak up. There's no rumours, it's fucking fact. You squelched out that door last night. Aye.
All right. Well, you can thank Haye then for warming up your wife for you, Andy. Saved you a bit of work. Anyway,
I've seen the action this weekend.
oh, that sucks.
I couldn't bite my fingernails last night.
Well, well, you can tell by David Haye's opponents that he's the guys he's been fighting the lowest standard, as that comedian in the UK said recently, that he's not confident in his own abilities at heavyweight. He's going to always struggle with a bigger man. I mean, just imagine how Tyson Fury would have embarrassed him with that performance he put in there last night. Bellew took the first round off of him with the jab and the straight right. I thought Bellew was definitely in the fight before the injury happened. He was probably down on he was down on the cards, probably maybe 3 rounds to 2, 4 rounds to 1. But he was in the fight, and Haye was likely to gas. So whether the injury happened or not, it's still a competitive fight. I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch because I wouldn't mind seeing Haye lose again. As much as I want to just sit here and gloat about Haye and insult him, because he totally deserved the humiliation last night after his disdain for the fans and how many times he's pulled out, and his pathetic fight cards that he's put on with himself against Mark DeMori and other such scrubs. I was fairly impressed with how he didn't make any excuses post the bell. But I mean, you can also look at it like, of course he didn't.
Ripping at him. He wants to tell us, mate, and it's going to come. He's going to fucking tell the world what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's coming, but I mean, also that however many millions he made last night is also soothing the pain in his leg and the pain to his pride. So in many ways, they were hugging and kissing because they just made a lot of money together without really going through that much.
Excellent stuff from the hater as usual. Right, let's take a boat on down the love tunnel to our next panel member. I'm delighted to say we have a very special guest on the line tonight. He's from the Excellent Boxing Coalition podcast. He's ready to pour a big plate of salt all over the show from last night, I'm sure. Leon's on the call. Leon, what's happening?
Come on, Leon.
Hey guys. I don't know about special guest. I feel a bit special needs after picking Haye to knock him out in three rounds.
Think about shape.
Oh, that rug's cancelled.
Yeah, you need to go and pawn that fucking sheep pile that he's got.
No,
that shag pile of it's called. Fuck.
Yeah. But I didn't watch it live because I'm not letting Hearn take my Saturday nights anymore. He's a cunt. So I watched it this morning, having kind of watched it unfold on Twitter, and David Haye was fucking horrible, wasn't he, in those first 3 rounds? I mean, it's not even the injury. He was just sloppy. It's like his skill set had dropped off, and it was just disappointing. And Bellew did very well to stay. He did what he had to do to stay in the fight. His ankle or whatever fell apart. That looked fucking horrible and very painful for him, but nothing that he doesn't deserve. So, it's still hard to take because I'm no Bellew fan, but Haye lost, so it was a kind of win-win situation for me that fight. So. But in general, the whole...
Leon, I was going to ask you actually, just while you were talking about Haye there, do you think that the sort of pressure got to him? He was the favourite, everyone was expecting him to knock him out. He had to sort of press Bellew, and Bellew was happy to sit back. He's got to come to me, he's got to force the fight. He's the heavyweight. It sort of played into Bellew's hands.
Potentially, but I think, let's be honest, he was shot to shit, wasn't he? That's the brutal, honest thing, is he did not look like half the fighter he ever was at any point in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a complete... So he fucking knew what state he was in. He knew it was a fraud. The whole thing's been a fucking fraud. I mean, like Adam was saying, the whole build-up is a fucking farce. And everyone's going, it's great to see that, respecting. I didn't want to see that shit. You've been calling the cunt a fraud and, an old man and out, that he's ripping the public off. And then you say, I beat the best cruiserweight this country's ever produced, and it's a fucking loving. No, call him a fucking fraud again. Because if that's what you honestly believe, don't fucking crawl back. Like the Charlo fight from the end of last year. I loved that reaction that Charlo had to Williams. I can get behind that. I mean, it was honest. This thing was just slimy at the end of it, wasn't it?
Roid rage, mate, at the end of that one. Charlo.
But I'd rather see that reaction than this sudden fucking horrible loving. It was just slimy. The whole thing was slimy. And if you paid for that, you Just you're part of a fucking problem, not the solution. You know.
See, to be honest though, right? See, do you think that people? You just said that Haye was shot. I don't think we can say that because everybody, it's about everybody apart from anybody who was from Liverpool or was a friend of Bellew's, all backed apart from Smeedo, all backed Haye to fucking smash him aside.
So right, but you could see after a couple of rounds he wasn't physically there, and it was his skill set. He was missing so wildly. I was shocked at how poor his skills were. He was all over the place for those first 3 rounds.
What about the big guy then, Big Tone? He's got the win now. He's talking all sorts of shit. He's going to hang around at heavyweight and cash in, isn't he? What's going to happen next? Do you think they'll try and make the rematch? I mean, you know what Eddie's likely on?
I think Haye's fucked. I don't think Haye can come back from this. He's got flown off for another miracle operation with the German again, hasn't he already? So I mean, that's another 3 years off, then, isn't it? I mean, pointless him coming back, really. I mean, the whole Dave stuff at the beginning of the year was fucking horrible. This fight was horrible, especially it all coming out at the end that they all love and respect each other. It just left a horrible taste in the mouth, you know. It's like you fucking wound up a city like Liverpool. There could have been fucking deaths at that fucking presser, couldn't there?
Yeah,
like, kicking off. Well, it's fucking outrageous. And if you've got all of those people in that arena, we've been to fights. We know casuals love a fight. You don't know. You put fucking people's life on the line with winding that shit up.
I think Tony actually sounded more enthusiastic about the rematch post-fight than Haye did.
Because he knows he beats him again, probably. Easy money.
He knows he's now going to be the A side. He has not really got a lot to trade with now. He's not even really a name. Or he's still got a bit of name value, I suppose. He's got the backstory with Bellew and the injury, and he can obviously just sell on that. But if he goes back for a rematch with Bellew and that is on significantly reduced terms, Bellew is going to be the fucking A side of that fight.
Yeah, and he deserves to be as well.
Yep.
But this is again Bellew. Let's rein the Bellew love in a bit. This is Bellew, who had a one-legged man in front of him and only just about got him out of there. And he was gassing when he was unloading on him in that 11th. And that's the second time, this is his second fight that he's been in a pay-per-view where really his performance, he's been disappointing. He couldn't get rid of a one-armed Nathan Cleverly and he couldn't get rid of a one-legged, or only just got rid of a one-legged David Haye. So it wasn't the world-class performance I was kind of expecting to see, having not watched it live, if you see what I mean. I thought, there might be a performance in this, but there wasn't.
Leon, I know you can't stay around forever, which is great, but we are glad to have you on. What about the undercard and that? Have you seen any of that? Derry, O'Hara, a bit of Malignaggi?
I was always going to tune in for the Paulie fight because that was a thing of beauty. He got what's coming to him. He's a horrible little fuck as well. So, and I'm a big fan of the Savage. So it was a beautiful body shot, but he was a fat, blubbery mess as well, wasn't he? He looked in no fucking shape. He looked like a bloated alcoholic with that skinhead on, didn't he? He was horrible. But to be fair to him, at the end of the fight, he was very gracious about it all. But that's probably because he knows he wants his Sky job, so he's behaving himself. But he was another sacrificial lamb. Derry was another guy, turned up for the payday, knowing he probably couldn't win. So, you know, it was pretty horrible undercard. They looked half decent on paper, but they weren't competitive.
I had to give props to Paulie for just jumping right on the mic after getting knocked out. That was all right.
Yeah. I mean, it was good of him to do that. And the same with Derry. And Derry obviously took that loss pretty hard, and he looked pretty cut up, and he's been in good fights through the year. But I mean, they were both in fights that they didn't look like they turned up to win. Either of them looked like they ever turned up with any real motivation to win those fights. And that's pay-per-view. Eddie Hearn has been fucking lowering the standard of British boxing fucking slowly, like Japanese water torture, so that when we come to pay-per-views, it's all that matters is the main event. And we're so used to dross on normal Sky that we're happy with O'Hara Davis versus Derry. He's been nothing but bad for boxing over the last couple of years, I think.
Right, Leon, stay on the line for as long as you wish. We'll come back to you shortly. I'm just going to try and get, who else? We got Donny and Ben here. Donny, right, let's lead into you with this question from the doc, Asif, former contributor to the panel. The doc is asking you, Donny, he says, which was the bigger upset, Fury over Vlad or Bellew over Haye? From the view from over in America, Donny, what do you think?
Well, I think Fury over Vlad has to take the cake. there, just because it was a title and because Vlad had been champion for so long. I mean, apparently, according to the betting odds, mathematically speaking, I guess Fury actually would not be the bigger upset. But I think from the sort of just the fans' point of view and what the way we expected it all to happen, I think because actually, to be fair, I actually did, I think, pick Bellew for this fight. I wasn't on the pod last week, but we had talked about it preliminarily, I think about four or five pods ago, and I did pick him because I said I don't know what we think David Haye still has left. He's only faced this middling opposition, and Tony Bellew is coming off of a huge win against the African guy, Machunu or Makubu. So yeah, I mean, you know, I first of all, one other thing I want to say too is that with reference to what is it Leon from who's just on before me?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So I mean, you said that he couldn't get him out of there or whatever, but I mean, he is coming off of a big knockout win against the African guy, and he did break his hand in the second round. So I think it would have been rather hard for him to put together the combinations he would have needed to put together to get out a much bigger man. And he still put him down in the was it the fifth?
5th and 11th, I think it was.
The 5th, but Haye didn't tear his Achilles until the 6th. So he had already had him hurt, even with a broken hand. You know, in other words, even though Bellew broke his hand, he still was able to hurt David Haye in the 5th round, and it wasn't until the 6th that he sustained the Achilles injury. From my standpoint, I think Bellew dominated the fight against a guy that we didn't, you know, that nobody expected him to beat. I think that Tony has to get all the credit in the world. Yeah, David Haye, you know, uncharacteristically, I think.
Donnie's just died there, but Donnie, are you still on mute? Listen, do you give Cotto all the props for beating Foreman and Sergio Martinez? Sturm for beating Barker?
I mean, the Sergio Martinez thing, it was clear that he was shot from round number 1, though. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but so was Foreman. Well, fucking Foreman had a bad knee going into that fight. He had it all braced up and stuff. Remember the time Freddie Roach was complaining, oh, that was the Martinez fight, that he couldn't wear a knee brace. It had to be just one of those kind of sleeve type fittings, eh?
Right.
But no, well, the thing is, people shitting Cotto for beating, like, diminished fighters. You know, essentially, that's what Bellew did last night. You know, I think it's pretty clear that he went into that fight injured. And I know people say that, you know, 99% of the time fighters didn't go into fights 100% fit and all that sort of stuff. They've usually got weed niggling problems going through camp and all. But it's clear, you know, maybe that story, if you see it in the newspaper and stuff like we saw over here, that you think straight away, oh, it's bullshit, it's just pure hype, and that just turns out there's probably more to it than actually what we thought.
And just quickly, he does deserve some credit, but I just wanted to dampen down some of the kind of madness that I've been seeing on Twitter and in different places today. That's all. He deserves his credit. He got the job done. But I'm still a little disappointed. He was throwing a lot of shots in that 11th round. He did get to him in the end, but it's just I agree with an elite level performance. That's all. It wasn't an elite level fight. It was nowhere near that, really.
I mean, the fact that it wasn't elite level fight, I think may have actually made it a better fight. You know, I mean, these guys are kind of, you know, Haye didn't have his mobility as much, especially after the 6th round. And, you know, Bellew fine with the broken hand. So these guys were just sort of wailing away on each other. And they're, you know, especially in the latter half of that fight, there wasn't a whole lot of science to it. They were just kind of slugging it out, banging it out. And even, I think there was one time, I think it was in the 9th round where Haye did catch him with a counter left hand, and it did shake Bellew just a little bit, but it was right before the round ended. I mean, I was entertained by the fight, and I think, it seemed like the people in the arena were entertained by it as well. I mean, I understand what you're saying. You just kind of douse a little water on the hype because you feel like it's excessive. But, I mean, from my standpoint, I guess maybe my standpoint might feel a bit different if I paid for it, if I was over in the UK. But from my standpoint, it was a great fight. And from what I heard, I think people were able to watch it on Sky's website or something.
I'm so fucking glad I didn't pay for any of that shit last night. Apart from an electricity bill or whatever and that, but thank the Lord.
Yeah,
what did you get it on, Donnie? Did you have it on Wealth TV or something like that?
No, well, actually, if there was, I wasn't aware of any.
It was on AWE.
I felt like I had to stream it, but yeah, I mean, I would have paid £5 for it though, like for the quality of fight that you got. I thought it was a pretty good fight. I really enjoyed it.
Where do we see Bellew going next?
He'll give him the rematch. He just wants a lot of money, I think. I mean, where does he go
be
next?
immediate,
I
though,
don't understand why the hell Eddie Hearn was talking about Deontay Wilder. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, because there'd be way more money in a Haye rematch, and it's a fight that I think he probably would win.
But if this injury is genuine, and it looked it, to be fair, that ain't, but if Bellew's got ambitions to be out the game in 18 months and Haye's injured for 6, I can't see that happening immediately, to be fair. I mean, obviously we've got Bradis and Hooker fighting for the interim WBC. I know there's nowhere near as much money at cruiserweight as there is heavy, but
he'll fight Charlie Z on YouTube or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. But
Here we had Smitho, we had a question in from Paul Edwards, actually, which is in this type of area. He said, I can't see Bellew going back down to be defeated by Usyk for no reward, and he suspects a Wilder cash out. So we don't think he's going to be going back down to fight those guys.
I think a Wilder cash out, and I think that would have to happen in America, would it not? I know Usyk's the obvious danger, but I think Bellew could go back down. There's still money in the Hook fight with the Germany money. Obviously, Hook will have to beat Bradis. I think it's this month. There's still potential there. Obviously, the money at Cruiser's not as good, but Parker's busy, AJ's busy, Haye's injured, Fury's fat, Ortiz is dangerous. I mean, and Wilder's American. There's not that, it's not that easy for him to go for a heavyweight.
Would he ever just take a payday and just get annihilated by Anthony Joshua?
Probably yes.
Yeah. The other thing is that it's worth noting that of all the British heavyweights out there right now, I think the one with the most significant and impressive win is Tony Bellew.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, no, but Dave White, did you see that guy last night that he fucking fought? He was actually out jabbing him for a fair bit, and then the guy's got a temple of fucking crystal.
You mean Dave Allen, right?
Dave Allen's, what did I say? Dave White. Dave Allen, yeah. Sorry. I mean,
well,
he's shit
called the White Rhino, so.
That was shit, man.
Oh, he looked like the White
Andy, you see when we were talking about Bradis and he's fighting Hook, isn't that right? Where does Drozd fit into all of this?
He's injured, mate. Aye, because I remember I had said to somebody last week and that, Bellew's, the champ. I said, well, he did win the vacant title against the highest ranked opponent, but Drozd has been injured for about 12 months now. I don't know it might be forced to retire for what I read, but that was a few months back. That was around about the time when Bellew fought. What do you call him? So aye, around about that time, so last summer.
Yeah, things are getting desperate, Ben. I'm going to have to start giving Tony credit if he keeps on pulling off these wins. We had a question from John Pims. I think we've answered it. He said, was this the luckiest win in the last decade? Bellew was blowing badly and down on the scorecards before the injury. I think we've probably covered that, Ben. You can speak about that if you want, or just the fight in general.
Yeah, I just, like he said before, I felt totally conned. I mean, I didn't pay for it, obviously. I streamed it, but it felt so fucking contrived, all of it. Because I was there in Liverpool. I was there on Thursday at the press conference in London. I didn't get to speak to David, but I spoke to Tony Bellew. I spoke to Dave Caldwell. I spoke to Shane McGuigan twice. And I just thought all of it at the end, after all that, and then they're basically blowing each other in the ring, it just seemed so contrived and fake. And I mean, the injury did look real when I watched it again and again today. I'm not going to say it was like some kind of big conspiracy, but it just, everything about it annoyed me at the end of the day. Haye was really bad, obviously, from the beginning. These wild shots, he couldn't get his timing right. He tried to jab Bellew to the body quite a bit. But once he was injured, it was all gone. And I know Bellew might have broke his hand, or they're saying he broke his hand, but still, come on, guys have broken their hand before and stopped people. Guys have popped the shoulder and won fights. And I know Tony won, and fair play to him. But considering the state David was in, I'm surprised, one, Shane didn't throw in the towel earlier, even if David did want to go out on his shield. And two, that Tony really didn't finish him off. Even if he was gassing and tired, I'm surprised it didn't end quicker than it did. But that's about it, really. I'm just pissed off that the way they were talking about the rematch straight away, and they were hugging and kissing, and it's just, I think that's what, you know what, I'll be honest with you, I know for a fact that people do in boxing agree 2-fight contracts before, and they'll say, "Oh, that was a good fight." Afterwards, let's do it again. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was the deal here. And I know if David is really injured, then he's not going to be back for a while, and they might not be able to do it. But if he can come back and do it, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the plan all along. Take it to Goodison. They can both cash out big time, and Tony can, retire then with a stupid amount of money. And so
Ben,
David,
if you for anyone who can see the rematch happening immediately, Ladbrokes are taking bets on Bellew's next opponent, and David Haye is in there at 10-1. So if you fancy the Haye rematch to happen next, that's the way to make money.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if it'll happen next. I mean, I saw Dillian White call him out straight away, and I know Dillian was there yesterday trying to get speak to Hearn about his next opponent. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try and do something like that if they can't do Haye. But I think if Haye can go again, that's where they'll go. It's the biggest fight for both of them, I suppose.
I think Eddie views Dillian White as sort of domestic level, maybe slightly above. I don't think he's going to be throwing him in from what I hear. He sort of found his level, which, I mean, we all saw this ages ago. But there was a couple of questions in from Ben Thorns. Ben, before you run off, the one, you've answered it. It was about why did Shane McGuigan allow his man to get his cunt kicked in for 5 rounds but not allow it to go to the cards? I think you've answered that one, Ben. But just before you run off, why did the ref not give Haye a 20 count when he was knocked out of the ring? I was wondering this myself, actually.
Yeah, I wondered that. I was a bit confused about that. And then the other thing was as well, when people say that Bellew knocked him down in the 5th, or the referee counted Haye in the 5th, and Haye just sat there bemused for a second and then got up. I watched it again today, and it didn't look like Bellew just pushed him. Really, it didn't look like he was actually knocked down by a blow. Anyway, it looked like he just sort of fell down, and that was the 3rd time after he injured himself in that sixth round. Sorry, I think it was. That he he went down in the 3rd time. He didn't seem to get knocked down. He just sort of fell down, but the referee counted him. So I was a bit confused about that as well.
Yep, don't know too much about that, Ben, but thanks anyway. Just to remind you guys, we've got plenty coming up later on in the show. Garcia, Thurman, loads of fights next week. I didn't think there was actually that much next week, but the more I delve into the BoxRec schedule, there's actually quite a few decent fights. The Bellew of the week as well, or the Haye of the week, as it might be renamed.
We need to take that under advisement, mate. I think we could retire it this week, maybe give Bellew one last, and then maybe put it out to vote if we should keep it or rename it.
There's a few belters, Andy, anyway, regardless of what you call it. So keep an eye out keep an ear out rather for the end of the show. Before we put this Haye Bellew talk to bed, get ready for a dose of controversy. Amir Khan's on the line, backed by popular demand. Amir, your man Tony Bellew, you always had the faith, didn't you?
No, did that bollocks. I thought he was going to get slaughtered. I'm absolutely in shock. I can't believe he's actually done it. Even when he had the injury, I just thought Haye's, baiting him in and going for the killer shot. But to be fair, Tony Bellew just ran rings round Haye all night. Haye didn't have a bloody clue what Bellew were doing, and it's shots like the body shots and things like that. I think that slowed Haye down and drove him back to the ropes. And in the end, he had nowhere to go. Credit on Haye though; he stayed up as long as he could have. But I don't know what you guys are saying, but that wasn't very nice to watch. It should have been stopped, I think, round probably 7-8 for my liking. I don't think the towel made any difference. He was just out of it, It just goes to show that if you don't prepare, you take the piss, you get found out. And he was on boats and all that kind of stuff, 4-week training camps. Whatever Haye said he's going to do to Bellew, that's exactly what ended up happening to himself. He actually was knocked out.
Yes, Amir, you weren't happy then. You weren't happy about the ending, basically. Say if it was you in the corner, Amir McGuigan getting up on the side, would you have chucked the towel in like 2 or 3 rounds beforehand?
Way sooner, yeah. It was only going to go one way. I mean, he had no power at all. He couldn't set his feet. He couldn't move his head. All he was doing was just going backwards. And we all know a ring is only so big. In the end, he didn't want to be in the ring. He got thrown out. It was a bit of a joke, really. I wouldn't say it's luck. I just think, Tony Bellew thought, not that I did, a lot of us didn't, just thought he was going to do it, and he did it.
Where they're both going next then? Haye first and then Bellew. Where do they end up?
I think Hayes going back to Germany, getting some surgery done. Then I think Haye needs the money. The way he was asking about the rematch, it just seems to me that he's broke. I think he's just wanting a big fight with anyone. I don't think Bellew will fight him again, unless it's for an obscene amount of money. I think they made quite a few last night. With that show. I don't know what the numbers are. If any of you guys know how much it did?
No, I don't think they've come out yet.
No. As for Bellew, I think he's right now. I don't know how many fights he can get up for like that. 14 weeks is a long time compared to 4 weeks training. And it's hard training as well. With Dave Caldwell, he doesn't let you mess around. I just think that Tony's probably got 1 or 2 fights left, and he needs to be quite selective when he fights, because really, he's like as David Haye said, he's like a chihuahua in a pit bull's den. With all the big heavyweights, we've seen the size of them. David Haye's a small guy compared to Joshua, Klitschko, Wilder. I can't see Bellew beating any of them, but funnier things have happened, and look what he's just done. But I'm just looking forward to it. I think the funny thing is, I can just see it ending in a really bad way for Bellew. He'll be in too deep sooner or later, and he'll probably get finished. But let's just see what happens. I'm really happy, and it was a shit card, but I like the main event.
Your team stream, aren't you? What about the undercard?
Katie Taylor. To be honest, I first started watching it yesterday when I've seen the women's boxing before. I just turned off. I just can't watch it. It's just not the same. I just can't get into it.
Sexist bastard, honestly, by the way.
The girl that she was fighting, she looked like a fucking prostitute. I mean, what was she doing in the ring? Katie Taylor.
Freaking hell, what are the prostitutes like around your way, Amir?
Yeah, apparently they're skinheads.
Generally speaking, I can't believe that was the chief support. What I think should have happened is, they should have had a proper 50-50 fight on the undercard, like George Groves, James DeGill. Not that it's 50-50, more like 70-30, because I think George Groves got ruined by Carl Froch twice, and I think he's done. But
yes,
it wasn't that good. And Smido, he had a little go, and he was right. But the thing is,
Amir, you've learnt a valuable lesson, really, mate.
I think boxing is
right. Amir,
I think boxing is going into like a circus now, with all these mismatches and all these fights, and it's not what it used to be. There's no fights like Ben McClelland, all the classics that we used to see. It's no longer there. It's just mainly guys fighting other guys, and it's like massive differences. But it's all good fun.
Yeah, we try to keep things positive on here. Amir, you're bringing me down a little bit. Is there anything else finally before we move on that you want to tell us about? Haye, Bellew related, or anything else in the boxing world?
Well, after that fight, I just fell asleep. I couldn't be bothered to stay awake for the Thurman Garcia fight. So after I go, I'm hoping one of you hardcore nutcases can give me a breakdown of how that fight went down.
Which fight?
Yep.
Garcia Thurman.
We're moving on to Garcia Thurman next, Amir. So thanks for your call, and you keep listening to the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast, and subscribe to us on YouTube as well if you haven't already. We'll speak to you next week, man.
See you later. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. I'm here on fine form as usual there. Right, finally, any comments from the weekend? Anything that you enjoyed, didn't enjoy before we move on to Garcia Thurman?
Ted Cheeseman got a pay-per-view showing last night.
How did he look?
White, kind of blondish hair. I don't know. He looked okay. I mean, to be honest, the guy who was fighting, I think it was Sellers. He was a tough bastard. Like he took a bit of a trimming. I think he got knocked down pretty heavily. I think it was pretty early in the fight. I forget what round it was, but he hung in like should have bit of balls. Davis is Davis, man. I mean, this guy. I mean, I see that. What do you call him? Was it Herring? He was asking about him last night. Why is he hated and stuff? Well, just going about with those type of fucking sunglasses he gets out of B&M's or whatever. And I think he's Floyd Mayweather, but. He really needs a step up, doesn't he? I mean, they're talking there last night, for example. This this is, you're just talking about Eddie Hearn turning things into a circus. And this is classic Hearn. You bypass domestic level, you bypass all your domestic rivals as such, and you fucking move into like world title honours when you're not fucking fit and ready for it. Josh Taylor is sitting there waiting for that fucking fight, and Eddie Hearn will fucking not take it because he's a fucking minge.
But there's two things there, Andy. Number one, it means the boxer is just completely unprepared when they step up to the main level, and it also denies us good fights, domestic level good fights.
Exactly.
That we used to get.
See, like maybe 5-10 years ago, 5-10 years ago, before Hearn got his fucking grubby fingers on the Sky contract, 10 years, say, right? These guys would have all fought. On the way up, you would have fought your most closest domestic rival to see who was the best. You would then go on at European level, and then you would wait your turn to get a world title shot. Nowadays, it's all about fucking picking up all the points and these shitty baubles, WBC silver titles and that. Get yourself into position like fucking Callum Smith. Then you speak about getting a fight at Anfield for fucking 18 months, and what happens? Your promoter loses the fucking purse bids, and he's got to go to America and fight Anthony Darrell. Aye, right. Fucking AIDS, man. You can't even get the, good domestic fights. I mean, you didn't need prospects like that there last night. I mean, why is Davis fighting guys like fucking Derry Matthews, who most of the world knows is shot? That would have been a prime opportunity to try and get Josh Taylor and O'Hara Davis on that for the British title, possibly. In fact, he can't. Who's got that title? No, it's no Cardo. I forgot who gets the light welterweight title. But you know what? You get my point. You could be made that a European title fight last night. I don't know if that's possible, but something fucking decent. No fucking prospects beating up fucking guys who are basically has-beens, just fucking because they've got a bit of name value. Just fucking big them up, pad the records, and see when it comes down to it. We saw what happened with Gav McDonald last week. Okay, fair play to the kid, he hung in there and all that sort of stuff, but he was not prepared to go into that fight against a guy like that, right? And this is what's going to happen with Davis. He is going to be cherry-picked right in at world title level, and he's going to get funded. He's going to get found wanting. I know it's going to come. It's going to come, and people are going to be like cloner all over again. They're going to say, "Thank fuck, praise the Lord."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at fights like Macklin against Jamie Moore. Haye to Dave. You wouldn't have had that fight, British title level. These days, that wouldn't happen there. They'd be moved in separate directions.
Absolutely.
But just
go ahead, Hater.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was muted.
Oh, go ahead then, Leon.
Yeah, all I was going to say is this is like what Andy was saying. They've chosen Derry. Okay, it fits the Liverpool-London story that they're selling. But he fits the type. He's past it. They can say he's fought at world level because of that horrible fight against Terry Flanagan. He ticks every single box so that Davis can skip domestic level. He's perfect, isn't he? He's fought for the world title. He's been good fight. He's shot. So it was perfect for that card. And like you said, it's just a nonsense. I'm sick and tired of British title belt, the British title being shat on by Hearn. The shit they're pulling with Cardle and what's his name, the kid from Hull,
Campbell.
Fucking shameful. Fucking shameful. They're not going to make that fight so fucking Cardle can keep that belt. It's pathetic. It's bad for British, but that is bad for British boxing.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how many British title fights that Eddie Hearn's put on in the last, just say for example, the last 2 years. Someone go and find that stat for me. I'll be interested, and I bet most of them actually include Cardle in that. Most of the fights or most of the cards he's put on.
Mm-hmm. Personally, I don't give a shit about the British title itself, but if the British title also includes a decent opponent and making a good fight, then do that. I mean, the titles don't really matter to me. Most of the titles are trash anyway, paper belts. But you got to get it's all about who you fight, and Hearn is not making those matches.
Well, we've got Liam Smith against Liam Williams coming up. That's not for the British title, but that's a good domestic fight. That's what you want to see, right?
That's a fantastic fight.
Exactly. I'm just looking through that. I mean, you want Cal Yafai against Jamie Conlon possibly, but then I think Yafai's picked up a world title, so that's not going to happen.
They've got
Andrew Selby against what do you call him? That wee wanker.
Yeah,
Edwards. He's been up in weight. So there were some good fights here at domestic level. It could have been made. It's never been made. It's absolutely fucking tragic.
They've made Ryder versus Rocky.
Rocky Fielding.
Decent fight. Good fight. Is that a British title?
But yeah, British title.
Good.
But again, it's on the fucking undercard of Murray versus fucking Rosado.
That's horrendous.
Fucking swap it. That should be the main fucking fight.
Eddie, he said when about the Rosado fight, he said this is going to be one of the best fights I've ever staged. Is Rosado not the man? Am I getting them mixed up? Is Rosado the kid who got his face bludgeoned by Golovkin and then fought in some sort of cage thing? Was he the man who fought in the? Oh.
Yeah, bare knuckle, wasn't it? Against Brian
BKB,
Vera, was it?
big knockout boxing.
Yeah, that's it.
He fought
Yeah.
Stevens.
That lasted long.
He fought Curtis Stevens in that thing. That was actually a fun fight, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the problem is, guys, just rounding this off. Back in the day, you had a couple of guys, say, from Manchester or London or Liverpool. You would have thought to yourself, they're going to fight for the British title. It's a perfect matchup. But now they want to keep them separate, build them up so they can both fight for supposed world titles on pay-per-view and stuff. And that's all they're thinking about at the moment. And I want guys to make money. I want them to have big events. But it was a perfect case in point, Andy, that you said. Edwards against Selby. Let's let it fester. Let's let it, sort of marinate, and we'll have it on pay-per-view in a few years' time. Who are you kidding?
Exactly, mate. Exactly. It's deplorable. I know I've seen some guy on the YouTube chat. Oh, this show is negative. It might be negative, but it's also fucking fact. How the fuck can Edwards turn around about and say, "Oh, the Selby fight's got to be on pay-per-view"? Who the fuck do you think you are? You're a 7-0 fucking novice, and you got your ass kicked against a fucking world title champion.
Who said we were negative? Has he never listened before?
V and beats always. This is like Arsenal TV of boxing. Go fuck yourself, mate. Go jump off a fucking bridge.
Please subscribe. Right. I took a few losses. Last night, Smido. It started off so well for me on our little Facebook prediction league. I picked O'Hara to knock out Derry Matthews in the 4th round, so I wasn't doing too badly. But after that, I proceeded to pick Malignaggi to beat Eggington. I picked Haye, obviously, to beat Bellew. And then later on in the night, I had picked Danny Garcia to knock out Keith Thurman in the 11th round. And over in the Barclays Centre, New York, Smido, I'm not even going to defend him. I thought that Thurman was a worthy winner. I don't know what you thought, what you saw, but I thought that Garcia looked slow, he looked ponderous, he looked too small, and Thurman won the fight. I don't know where the splits come from, Adam.
Yeah, I think the Thurman won the fight. Clear to me. I was really impressed by Thurman early doors. He was, boxing, moving, fighting fire with fire when he needed to. They was really digging each other in the first 2 or 3 rounds. I thought, it was turning into, a little bit of a firefight, and that's good for, for bloodthirsty viewers like myself. I thought Garcia worked the body pretty well when he could. Obviously, he's all left hook. And from a technical point of view, I'm not normally no technical analysis, and I normally don't really enjoy the technical stuff, but this was a very good mixture of technical fighting, and both of them giving it a good go and swinging when necessary and when they could. The one thing that left a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth was Thurman. The last 2 rounds ran. I thought it was embarrassing, and I thought it was very dangerous, and so it nearly proved to be with the split decision. To run as he did, his corner were encouraging him to do so, and I thought that was pretty dangerous. And someone mentioned on Twitter last night, he was doing his best impression of Oscar De La Hoya. But I mean, props to Thurman, really. Like Santa Cruz, like Garcia himself, really, and Thurman. They were, just 3 fighters that I thought were exciting, young, and undefeated at the time. Thurman obviously still is. That went to Heyman and got lost in the wilderness a little bit. And did we think that it was because they were ducking them, or Heyman was ducking opponents on their behalf? But credit to Thurman. I thought the Porter fight was very good. I was impressed with him there, and I was impressed with him last night. I picked Danny Garcia to win. I was wrong. He looked smaller, as you mentioned, Steve. Thurman looked naturally the bigger guy. We knew that anyway, but visually it was quite significant. And he just kind of ran out of ideas a bit. I mean, Thurman was doing good, and he wasn't letting Garcia settle at all, and he was constantly moving. And I just think he took the moving strategy too far in the latter rounds, but he did what he had to do to win, and he moves on. Fair play.
How'd you score it?
I didn't score it at all. I didn't score it at all. I was falling asleep. To be honest, I was stood up in my living room for the last 2 rounds to try and avoid falling to sleep. I think I sent a message to Ben last night and Kurt, and I said I was really struggling. But no, I don't try and score him. I've gone down the Steve Wellings strategy of viewing boxing live.
Were you running around the living room, Smido, to try and stay awake like Thurman in the last couple?
I wasn't running around. I was standing. But yeah, it was like I say, I was not impressed with the last couple of rounds.
Leon, I don't know where you stand on this one. I can't remember who you picked beforehand, but Thurman seemed to get the tactics spot on. I think what Smido said there, he wasn't letting Garcia set his feet to get the power shots off. He dealt with him well with his feet and with his gloves. I thought he got the range right, Thurman.
Yeah, I was, when I watched it last night or in the morning, I wasn't overly impressed with. I didn't think it was a great fight, but having watched it back today again, I thought Thurman did very well. I like the way he came out and stepped to him, and I like the way he stepped to him when he needed to. He was throwing a lot of kind of lead power shots, wasn't there? There wasn't a lot of jabbing going on on either side, but he did. Yeah, I had it 8-4 to Thurman. He did very well, and I know what Adam means about running the last 2 rounds, but I think he's kind of got the. It felt like he had the fight in the bag, and he just thought, I don't need to risk engaging with him. But Danny was disappointing because I don't think Danny didn't put it on the line. I don't think it didn't go for Thurman in those last 2 rounds or 3 rounds. He must have known he's gonna have to knock him down and get him hurt somehow, and he didn't put it on the line. He was still just following him around. He's a counterpuncher, isn't he? So he's always wanting Thurman to come to him. But Thurman wasn't doing it, so he had to go out there and fucking go for him, and he didn't do enough.
I think that's easier said than done, though, Leon, because it was so so negative in the last couple of rounds, and Garcia was. I tweeted after about 8 rounds, he was on the verge of frustration, and obviously went into full frustration mode a couple of rounds later. It is easier said than done, to be fair.
He looked okay. My thing is maybe I'm judging too harshly, but he kind of seemed okay with the result. Like it wasn't that big a deal to him. That
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
he was comfortable with the loss, which is a shame. I'd rather see him get knocked out, but going for it. But boxers don't do that.
He simply wasn't willing to either get the knockout or get knocked out himself. And now that strategy and that hard doesn't mean you're gonna get knocked. But it's known in the fight by how hard he will.
Dave, we seem to be losing you, Dave. You've got a bit of a sound problem there, so I don't know if you want to disconnect and then reconnect yourself. Sorry for cutting you off there. While Dave tries to get that fixed up as best he can, Donny, as the guys have said, it wasn't really a great fight, and Garcia seems to have found himself in somewhat of a comfort zone. It was as if, I don't know, he expected the judges maybe to pull him through as they have done so many times before, and he wasn't willing to just go that extra mile. What did you say?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Could you just repeat? You said something about expecting the judges. You cut out for a second.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Yeah, what I was saying was it wasn't a great fight, and Garcia seemed to be in this kind of comfort zone where he was expecting the judges to bail him out as they had so many times before.
Yeah, that could be. Of course, in the last 3 rounds, or at least 2.5, it seemed like Thurman didn't want to engage that much because he knew he was so far ahead. But yeah, there was no sense of urgency there really until the end, and he really poured it on the 11th. But then in the 12th, even it didn't seem like he had the same sense of urgency. Was he counting on the judges? Maybe, but in a fight like this. Where they're both fighters who have been, I think, treated pretty well under the PBC system by Al Haymon. And I think that he had to think that and this is on national television, he had to go in there and put on a performance so that win or lose, there'd be, if he lost, there'd be public clamor for the rematch. If he won, then, he'd be a much bigger star. And, like I said, prime time on CBS, free to air television. For all the game that his dad talked up, which of course he enjoys, he likes that because he doesn't like to do it himself. But, in other words, he gave every indication that he was going to come to fight, and kind of a dud of a performance, in my opinion. He just didn't, there wasn't that urgency there, even when I think, I think he probably knew he needed to make a comeback, and he just didn't launch it and was kind of content to, I think, at least leave a little something in the ring. I think today and tomorrow and for a while after this, I think he's going to be kicking himself because it just seemed like there was no urgency when he really needed it. And maybe it's because he was undefeated, he just didn't know what it was like to be in that position before.
Ben, where do we see Thurman's place in the welterweight division now? I would say that Pacquiao is obviously still number one. Thurman, what type of place would you put him?
I think Pacquiao's still number one. I think Brook versus Spence might tell us who the second best welterweight is.
Is that even happening? Have we got a date and a venue for that yet? I'm asking every cunt, and nobody knows.
You know, when I went to London on Thursday, and I desperately wanted to ask Eddie Hearn about this, and the guy disappeared as soon as the main press conference had finished. He sort of disappeared all the way across London to the Sky Studios, so I didn't get to speak to him about it. But he did say to me, like I said before last week, he did say that they were going to find out from Sheffield Council in the next 7 days, so they should have found out by now. So I'm expecting something from them this week.
It needs to be announced this week, like, 'cause I think, what's that? That's what date? It was April they're talking, or was it early May?
May? No, it's going to be May 27th or May 20th. They were looking at.
I mean, the ring gets something announced shortly, man. They can't leave it any longer.
Tonight, Showtime. There's someone saying that Showtime are going to be showing it live on the 20th of May. That's on Twitter that Showtime have.
But is that not the same date as one of the playoff games for the football?
I think the last playoff game is maybe the 14th. I can't remember, but I think it's the 14th. But I might be wrong. Not 100% sure.
No problem, Ben. Quick word on Thurman Garcia strategically. It wasn't a great fight, was it? It was okay.
No, it was. I didn't think it was brilliant. I thought it was okay. I think Garcia is just too slow. He was too slow, and Thurman fought the smarter fight, like he said he would. He just kept on moving to Garcia's left all the time, and neither of them, I don't think, used the jab very much. But Thurman, like I say, was just smarter all around, and Garcia, I don't know, he didn't seem to want it as much at all. I wasn't impressed with the way Garcia, with the way Thurman sort of danced around the ring for the last 2 or 3 rounds either. I thought that was fairly poor, but I had it about 8 rounds to 4 at the end. I don't think it should have been split decision really, but maybe I think the dancing around the ring for those last 2 or 3 rounds is what caused that split decision. But yeah, other than that, I didn't find it too exciting, to be honest with you.
Dave Loback, the official voice of American boxing. We can hear you loud and clear again, hopefully. Just picking up on Ben's final point there, he danced around the ring, the scores were maybe tightened up a little bit and it ended up as a split decision. We had a question in from Danny Young, if you want to address this first, Dave. He said, after the Thurman Garcia scorecard, do you think that anything will ever get done with dodgy judging?
This wasn't one of the worst, honestly, but I did think it was silly. I mean, I think Thurman won that quite clearly. I had it 8-4. The judges seemed to be unable to come to a consensus on the majority of the rounds. I thought it wasn't that difficult to score. It seemed pretty clear to me. The rounds in which Thurman sort of took his foot off the gas and Garcia actually decided to throw, he won. Other ones were won by Thurman. I mean, whenever Thurman decided to work, I mean, he usually got the better of the action because he was leading. He was making the fight for about the first 8 rounds. And he would get off first, usually land, sometimes not. Both guys, I have to say, both guys were better than I expected defensively. Both rolled very well with the shots, had pretty good head movement. And Thurman had the edge in defense because he also had the foot movement, so he was able to get in and out. But Garcia whenever he landed a shot, Thurman would come right back and get him and sort of stay that little bit ahead of him in most of the rounds. And Garcia wasn't willing to make that sacrifice in reverse for most of the fight. I would say I liked the fight because I was rooting for Thurman and I enjoyed seeing Garcia get hurt. I think he got hurt in 2 or 3 rounds, the first and the third for sure. And in fact, in the first round, when that right hand landed and sort of spun him sideways with his arms flailing out, it reminded me of when he knocked out Khan. It was sort of a very similar pose, and I thought it was sort of poetic, but unfortunately he didn't. Thurman got a little wild and didn't follow up properly. I mean, Garcia has a hell of a chin, a great chin, because he took some bombs and he recovered really quickly too from both times that he was hurt. As far as the so-called running away in the last couple rounds, I mean, the pressure was on Garcia to change things there. Thurman had made the fight for about 8 rounds. He started moving a little bit more as it got till the end, but I still thought 11 and 12 were close. I gave the 11th to Thurman and the 12th to Garcia. I thought they were still, I mean, they were not like clear-cut rounds for Garcia that like De La Hoya Trinidad, like how, and I still thought De La Hoya was blatantly robbed in that fight. But regardless, I felt Thurman was very much still in the fight. It was just he just changed his tactics up, and Garcia was not willing or able to go after him properly. It was very a very limited performance from Garcia. Very disappointing for him anyway. But for me, it was great because I wanted to see him lose. And his dad, of course, came out with the predictable excuses. Oh, he was running. Like, yeah, your kid was standing there for 8 rounds as Thurman came to him and took it straight to him. And he would try to get some counters off, but, you know, he had his chance and he didn't do it and he didn't take it. So that's a bullshit excuse. Very predictable from Angel, but bullshit.
Yeah, I don't like to hear that. I remember Joe Gallagher, whenever Crawler lost to Linares, Gallagher came out at the end and said something like, well, it was even after 10 and Linares shoe shine the last 2 rounds. I mean, it was just a complete obliteration of what happened in the ring that night, but, you know.
And I think Thurman was still throwing more punches even in the rounds that he was supposedly running in.
Right, Andy, last but by no means least, over to you. Just looking at Thurman going forward, obviously, because he's the victor, do you think he throws a little bit too wide to trouble the elite fighters? He seemed like he's open to counters at times and that he will struggle against maybe the Spence, Pacquiao, I think even Brook as well, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. He was missing a few shots. So was Garcia, mind you, last night. They were missing a few punches. As many of them say, it wasn't a great fight as such. It was okay. I just think the problem was there was at times it was very, very pedestrian, wasn't it? I mean, it was just like movement. You know, the punching speed wasn't all that great from both. I mean, there was a lot of wild shots. I mean, I thought after the first round, I said, "Oh fuck, we've got a good fight coming here," and it just gradually kind of got into a rut and just kind of stayed there. Nobody kind of really took command of it. I mean, I didn't really score it as such, but I personally felt I could have either had that a draw or Thurman by a point. You know, I heard Angel Garcia, which was fucking great to see him crying last night. But I'm sure he said that he at minimum had Thurman winning 5 rounds there last night. So, you know, a draw isn't kind of out the equation here. I mean, if you can give fucking Thurman, if he can give Thurman 5 rounds, then there's no reason another 2 close rounds could have been swung to Thurman for him to win that fight. It's been said that he showed really good foot movement last night. He did kind of go disappearing a little bit in the latter half, but as the guy says, Garcia, it's his job to basically change it up, become urgent, become more aggressive and stuff. I just felt when he did, you know, he was getting clipped with good shots. As you say, Steve, he had a really good chin there last night. But saying that, I don't really rate Thurman as much as the puncher is, but he probably, you know, declares himself to be. I think that's maybe because he's killing himself to make the weight. I mean, you remember when he fought Porter, he was fucking drained at that weight. He's probably done the weight right this time. But I think we'll probably see a wee bit more better him if he moves up in weight. You know, he's not depleting himself as such. But it was okay. It was a decent fight. I mean, that's what you want to see. You want to see like guys in the physical prime. You know, both laying claim to the welterweight title as such, and you know. Finally, they got it on. I mean, I think it was like we're waiting for that fight to happen for fucking years. It felt like finally got it on. It wasn't great, but you know, at the same time as sometimes these unification fights against the supposed elite fighters of the division doesn't deliver. But you know, we got it in the end, and that's all that matters. I think the Garcias are going to fucking be kicking themselves because they've not got a rematch clause in the contract, if that's true. So Thurman can do what he wants. As the guys were saying, who is the best welterweight just now? You probably need to say Pacquiao as such. I would agree with that, but I think as well, if you look at that division badly needs some fresh injects of blood. You know, it's always been like a really great division. Floyd gone, Pacquiao's on his retirement tour. Bradley's not been anywhere to be seen since. You know, we don't know what's happening with him yet. You know, that Pacquiao fight seems to be still dragging along. So you probably need to say that Thurman, you know, he's probably number 2 in that division. I really don't know what's happened with Kilbrook and Errol Spencer. Says the word needs to happen this week for that fight to happen. If it drags on another fortnight and stuff, I think we're going to see the fight getting pushed to June. But just back to Thurman and Garcia. I did think, as I say, Garcia just he left it too late, and even when he did leave it too late, he never really kind of pushed it as such. He did put the pressure on, but he wasn't landing nothing. Thurman at times he was moving out of distance. So what do you do? Do you score a round for a guy who's trying to push the fight, but he's not landing any punches, or a guy moving around and slipping punches and stuff? So it's really what you preferred. It was just great to see Garcia finally lose. I mean, I'm not a hater of the guy, but he's had a lot of kind of favours done for him in the past. Al Heyman, Part 2 love child. He should have lost to Mauricio Herrera. He was lucky against Peterson as well. So it's finally good to see him kind of get his comeuppance and see Daddy was moaning like a bitch that he is. Dave, you from Philly, Dave, you got a big dick?
Yeah, I saw that video too.
Oh my God. So
mad. I'm not from Philly. Well, I do have a big dick, but yeah, so much salt. The guy is so butthurt.
But in the end, I think Spence is going to be the kind of the guy's going to come to the top in that division. As I say, Thurman, he's easy. He's wanting to fight. He says he's wanting to fight anybody. I like Thurman as such. He talks well. I think he's intentioned as well. I think he also that he's not a big fan of Heyman as such, that he's been kept on the shelf as such. Porter, Thurman, these guys are not really been as active as much, especially Porter. I know he's got a fight lined up against Berto, which I suppose it's okay, but it's no type of fight I want to see Porter in as such. But what can we do? I'm not going to be too down the fight. We got what we wanted. We waited for that fight for a good while to happen. Guys in the prime. It's a unification fight. You can't really kind of knock it any more than that. Actually, it just wasn't the fight we'd hoped it would be. As I said, there were a lot of well punches getting missed. At the same time, there's some good classy punches getting landed. But as I says, even Garcia tried to lead with that left hook, and that I thought Thurman took it pretty well. It's just a shame that after the first round, which I did think it was really going to kick off after that, it just never happened. It's a shame, but at the end of the day is I'm not really wanting to see a rematch either. Actually, I'd rather see Thurman kind of move up. If anything, I'd like to see Garcia rematch against Khan. I would like to see that fight.
Thanks for that, Andy. Leon and Donny have both jumped off the call, so thanks for their contributions this evening. We've got about another probably 30 or 40 minutes to go, so if anybody wants to come on and have their say, hit us up on Twitter and we'll try and get the link to you to get you on to the Nuthouse. We still have on the panel Adam Smido-Smith, Ben, Dave the Hater Lowback, Andy Patterson, me, Steve. I'm still here as well. Let's fly on to this undercard then, shall we, guys? Another loss for me. I forgot about this one. I picked Chad Dawson to beat Andre Fonfara. Not doing too well this weekend. He got knocked out in the 10th round. Heather Hardy beat Adina Kiss, apparently. And Erickson Lubin. Now, this is a guy who seems to be making a few waves. He knocked out Jorge Cota in the 4th round. Looked really good. Landed a good solid left hand. We had a question from Darren Parsons come in. I don't know if anybody wants to take this up. I'm not sure which of the guys have actually seen this fight. He said, what fight plan would you make for Lubin and how long till he's ready for a world title shot? Does anybody want to take that one up?
Yeah, I'll take it up.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I've watched a couple of his fights, actually. See, to be honest, that was a fucking good quality dig. You see that shot, it reminded me a wee bit when Sergio Martinez knocked out Paul Williams. Just the guy fell differently, but if you look at it through like the overhead camera view, actually, he didn't even get his fucking back leg into that shot. His back leg was actually off as he threw it, so you can imagine if he actually got the full follow through, the through torque through his body and that. What would I do next to him? Well, if you look at WBC rankings, actually, remind me, what Charlo is it that vacated the title?
Jamal vacated. Jermel still has his.
Jermel, so he's a WBC champion. Right, okay, yes. So Lubin, I don't know, I mean, PBC, so you'd be looking at maybe Ishii Smith, kind of long stalwart in the welterweight division. Well, welterweight, light middleweight division, I should say.
I tell you who's fighting next week, Andy. Charles Hatley. Do you remember him who knocked somebody out down in Australia? That could be a decent eliminator against Lubin.
He's fighting Charlos,
Yeah,
is he?
I think.
Ignore what I. Sorry, I'm getting them mixed up. Ignore what I just said, then, yeah.
Right, now I'll just double check. I've got the calendar up here. 2 seconds.
Yeah, he's fighting Charlo.
He is fighting Charlo. Aye. So that being the case,
Boxrec saying that fight's postponed. By the way,
Gary Russell's opponent dropped to it. He's got a new one, is he not? Or is it off altogether? The whole
card? Are they calling off the Charlo fight too?
That Charlo one. might have this wrong, but it says tickets postponed.
Oh, for fuck's sake! So I
Breaking news.
I remember during the week Gary Russell's opponent got injured. It's not been changed on box, right? So I'd thought they maybe got a new opponent in because it's Oscar Escandon.
Escandon, yeah.
So right, well, doesn't matter. Really. Okay, what would I do with him? I would probably either target Ishii Smith. I know he's not a great fighter, but he's experienced enough, I suppose, and he is ranked quite high for about what I remember for the WBC. That was it, the Frenchman Cedric Vitu. I think he's still kicking around there somewhere. I think he might be the European champ, and Vanessa Martirosyan really, but she's again not really a great fighter, but. I don't know what they'll do, but I think they'll maybe just they'll keep him back for another couple of years. I think they're going to keep this guy kind of like gradually kind of coming up through the ranks and that. But he definitely looks a talent. Like he's got the power. He was a wee bit of showboating there last night. He kind of dipped his knees and came back up, and boom, landed the left hand. It was a good knockout. I see Andrade's fighting Kulkai next week, so I don't know if they can maybe go down another route as well. But it does look like they're going to go down the WBC route. It is quite kind of low down the WBA, so that'd be Lara and Kulkai. So would they fight Lara? I think it'd be too soon for him. So I think he's going to still keep getting these kind of like tune-up busy fights and stuff. And I know Kota was again WBC ranked there last night, and that was some sort of eliminator. So who knows if that fight has been called off for Charlo, it might get installed as the next mandatory, and that fight could happen next. So we never know. But I really like the look of this guy. I've seen a few of his fights. He does look good, and I forget what age he's, maybe early 20s or whatever. So still got a lot of.
He's only 21 years
He's
old.
very young.
That's why I think they're going to push him quicker, because they want to get that. What Jim Gray said, youngest champion ever, which obviously isn't true. Wilfred Benitez at 17, Tyson at 20. But is it right for 154, youngest champion?
154 youngest champion. No, let me get this right. Well, Benitez is the youngest champion ever, right?
Yeah, 17 years old.
That was at welterweight. I would need to go and check light middleweight if that is what they're putting up there.
That's what Jim Gray said. I don't know the history well enough to know.
Well, if it had been Steve Farhood that said it, then I would have believed him. But Jim Gray's a wanker, so we'll just disregard what he says.
Anything else off the undercard, boys? Dave, your compatriots, did you enjoy the show? Did you watch the undercard?
Yeah, I look forward to seeing more of Lubin. It's really disappointing if this Charles Hatley Charlo fight is off next week. That sucks, because that's a decent fight, and I think that they should put Lubin in there with the winner or the loser, one way or the other. I think move him forward as quickly as possible. I think he's ready. He's only 21 years old, but he looks like he's got. I mean, obviously he's got a lot of physical talent, but he seems mentally sound as well. In the post-fight interview, he was talking through the knockout. He knew what he was doing. He knows his fundamentals. Actually, the bizarre sort of knockout punch reminded me very much of a Pacquiao winging left hand, the sort that he hurt Marquez in their second fight. He sort of just like ducks his head forward and unloads that left hand just like a sort of a lever, and it just flies and usually connects. It's a very good move that Pacquiao's used in many fights, and if Lubin's got a good one, I mean, don't want to compare him to Pacquiao just yet, but hopefully he can become another star. I would look forward to that.
Yes, Smido's quite right. The fight in Maryland, another good PBC card. I'm giving the PBC a lot of props this year so far. It has been postponed. Gary Russell against Oscar Escandon, WBC featherweight title. Then another WBC fight between Jamel Charlo and Charles Hatley. And on the undercard, Emmanuel Rodriguez was supposed to go in over 12 rounds in his first step up against Omar Narvaez, and the debut as well of Gary Antoine Russell. I know Haye to Dave is pretty big on him. So that one's canned anyway. Andy, there's a couple of things from the weekend we forgot to mention. First of all, Lee Selby. I didn't actually see this fight. I believe he won by 9th round knockout.
He did, mate. What had happened is he was fighting the ex-Spanish champion. He's not even ranked. Obviously, it was a keep busy fight after what happened to him in Vegas. I actually left the house after the 4th round, went to the pub, had a pint, picked up a carry-out, came back to the house, sat down, and I just seen the knockout. The fight was still continuing. I was actually I thought the fight would have been over actually by the time I got back. But I see he got a bit of shit last night. Selby, isn't he? He's just, as you say, mate. You saw him for yourself at Vegas. You know, he's killing himself to make weight. You just don't know what that's taking it out of him to make that weight all the time.
Terrible.
So you just don't know if a 130 is going to be the best move for him. But I don't know. He just doesn't look doesn't look his cell, but he's just the same Selby. You know, he does what he's got to do to win. You know, no impressive as such, but it's just a shame. I like to see him in bigger fights now, actually, because if he doesn't get the big fights now, he's going to have to start over again at 130 unless he's shooting at a title fight there.
A fight that you might have known about, Andy, I'm sure you probably watched it, knowing you, last Thursday, Ian John Lewis was refereeing in Japan, World WBC Bantamweight title, Shinzuki Yamanaka knocked out Carlos Carlson, Brian Valoria got a win on the undercard. Anything you want to tell us about that show?
Yeah, absolutely. Ian John Lewis just confirmed to me how much of a wanker he is. Fair play to him. He gave Carlson every opportunity to stay in that fight. He got dropped badly twice and then he got fucking knocked out. He gave him every opportunity, just like he never gave Big Enzo the opportunity. So at least he's maybe learning. Maybe just because he's outside his comfort zone, he's not got the pressure, the locals and all that sort of stuff. But man, maybe it was Mauricio Solomon giving a wee back slap. You know how he came out last week and tweeted out that it's disgusting that he's a judge, he should be a referee because he's world class and all that sort of stuff. Next minute he's on the fucking plane in Japan, he's got a world title fight. Aye, fair enough. But Yamanaka, yep, looks good again. God's power again. That left hand's just sexual, just pure sexual. The amount of power he gets in that left hand is unbelievable. He can't really, some people were kind of saying, well, he's not fighting anybody. The guy was ranked, I suppose. That's about the best you can say. I don't know what's up next for Yamanaka. I would like to see him get into some of the unification fights. But I think the only one that would maybe interest him would be Marian Tapales. I think he's a Filipino. I mean, Lee Haskins is injured, and if you say Jimmy McDonnell and Roush, Kazakhstani guy. Zakianov. Those fights are not really going to be appealing to them. So I just think it's going to be WBC title defences. I actually breathed a sigh of relief when I seen that the number one ranked Thai fighter actually got popped for drugs, actually, because it was potential they could have fought him for a third time as a mandatory defence as well. So good to see he's been popped for drugs. So the next one up might be Lewis Neri, and this kid's getting a fair bit of good write-ups and stuff coming through. So if that fight gets made next, that should be another good fight for Yamanaka.
Right, we're going to move on to the previews for next week very shortly. Like I said at the beginning of the show, there are quite a few decent fights over the weekend to look forward to. Not quite sure how many of them are going to be televised, but we shall have ways and means to find them, watch them on the radio, as Andy would say.
Team stream, baby, team stream.
Team stream, you'll find it somewhere. We have a few questions, which I'm going to get out of the way. Don't forget, if you like the show, to go over to iTunes and leave us a written review and 5 stars. If you don't like the show, as Andy would say, go and throw yourself off the side of a bridge. Right, Richard Swig, not a question, more of a comment, says Richard. We'll read this one out for you. Doesn't Haye's performance when crippled show just how good Sergio Martinez was to do 12 rounds against Cotto when he should have been in a wheelchair? Yeah, I think we did pick up on that one earlier, Richard, so...
10 rounds he did, was it not?
Yeah, was it 9 or 10? I can't remember.
He got pulled out of the fight, I don't know that much, but I'm sure it was 10 rounds.
Yeah. Good old Sergio. Right, Smido, let's get you involved in this one. Michael Evans has asked on the Facebook page, the gap between the Eggington fight and the main event is the largest I've ever experienced. A shocking pay-per-view, and it still hasn't started. I think he was writing this before the actual main event. Sky are actually running out of stuff to say. Was it pretty painful to watch, Smido? I didn't hear much of the analysis or anything.
Yeah, well, I didn't pay for it, and I didn't really watch. I only watched the fights. To be honest, we had people around last night, and I only watched.
Fight swapping, eh?
Yeah. Keys
Good
in the
stuff.
bowl. I only watched the Eggington fight, and then the main event on my laptop. I literally turned my back for the Katie Taylor, whatever that was. I'm not even going to call it a fight. I did tweet. I did wonder because the Eggington fight finished at about 9:30, just before 9:30. And I thought there was going to be a big gap. And then who did they speak to? I mean, there was all there: DeGale, Chisora, Groves, AJ was there. I mean, we had the old boys there. I mean, the only person missing, I think, was that ginger fella from EastEnders. It's a shame he wasn't there. We had someone from The Only Way Is Essex supporting the Lucky Man. So I mean, yeah, it was. They had a lot of time to fill, and they filled it with a woman that has escaped from a prison and had a prison haircut against an Irish lady who can throw punches. I didn't answer the question very well there.
That's okay, Smido. That's why we love you so much. Right, Ben, let's see if we'll have any more joy with the answering to this question. This is actually an odds-related question, so I probably should have hit Smido with it, but I think you'll get the general point. It's from Daryl Jelly. He says, has any Matchroom fighter ever won a fight at odds of over 4-1 or more? He says, also, well done, Smido, for getting the Bellew, but not as good as me. And I think, judging by his little image, he has a Tony Bellew at 9-2. I don't know what that means, Smido. Is that
Well,
good?
no, I was on
cashed in anyway.
6-1 is better than 9-2. Sorry.
Oh, sorry about that, Dowell. Anyway, Ben, I think the point that Dowell's making is odds of 4-1 or over. Basically, the Matchroom fights, are they getting less competitive?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say they are. And I think it's probably best if Smido answers that question and I answer the previous one, where the commentary was...
Well, you have a go answering the previous one, Ben.
The commentary was horrendous. And you know what? I already hate Sky commentary, but what really gets me is the propaganda that they spew out and the repetition of points, repetition, is the most basic form of mind control. And they just say the same thing over and over again, so it sits in the mind of the casual fan. Like when Katie Taylor was fighting, she was the best professional female boxer in the world. And whether or not that's true, they do it for everything all the time, like we had with the Khan 70-30 thing, and everything that happens that Sky do, and when there's a fight on, there's a repetition of points to where I just want to throw up because it's that bad, and the commentary is so piss poor. When the Eggington fight was on, Eggington, obviously did a lot better than Molinari in the fight, but it was just like, there was no sort of reference to anything that Molinari did that was even half decent within the fight. It's really piss poor and just completely one-sided commentary. And I think it is actually getting worse. I don't think it's getting any better. And even people who before, like even not on the live shows, but say Spencer Fearon, he used to be he used to say things sometimes that didn't completely side with Sky fighters. Like when I spoke to him at the Khan Canelo press conference, he was like quite critical of Brook, but now he's just towing the line. He sounds like Paul Smith and what's he called from Sheffield, Johnny Nelson.
Yeah,
it's just all the same stuff all the time.
Johnny Bag.
Yeah, it's just really bad. It's getting worse.
Did you hear about his dog, Ben?
His dog? No.
Did you hear that story I told in the podcast like fucking 6 months ago?
It's been told many times.
We'll have to go and dig that one up. I think it was longer than 6 months. Go ahead, Smido.
Just for the other question, Steve, from a technical point of view, I don't think you would have a Matchroom fighter against an away fighter or non-Matchroom fighter where the Matchroom fighter on British soil is 4-1 or bigger. That's the direct answer to the question. It simply wouldn't happen. They just wouldn't make it, and they'll find a different route or continue to defend the WBC silver. The other facet to the question is basically biggest Matchroom upset. There's been a few where the guy's been an underdog, but not 4-1 underdog. I'm talking Crawler versus Perez. The Bellew versus Malinga Bellew was the underdog there. So we're looking at things like that. But frankly, we don't see much Matchroom on Matchroom crime anymore. They're either bringing people in from Latvia and they're 1 to 100, or they're fighting 3 of them like Paul Smith does, and then getting chucked in with a so-called world champion. I mean, it's becoming very cynical, the game that we're now accustomed to in this country. It's a shame.
Okay, we had a question from John Swan. I'm going to park this one because it's actually a moot point now. He said, Morales, Khan, Judah, Matisse, Peterson, Guerrero, Paulie, do you think a win over Thurman puts Danny Swift-Garcia on the Hall of Fame ballot? Well, Danny unfortunately didn't get the win there, so I'm going to put that one to one side. Ooh. I shall furiously fly through the pictures on my phone to the last question. Let's all put our heads together on this one, guys, all 5 of us. Leston Venables, it's another Matchroom one, I'm afraid. Sorry, Eddie, if you're listening. Matchroom's pay-per-views are shite, says Leston. Yes, we can agree with that. So, with Matchroom's roster of fighters, what could actually be a decent pay-per-view card? Okay, so we've got, I'm going to say, DeGale against Smith could be on it for one fight. Then, who else can we put on this mythical pay-per-view?
You're not talking Paul Smith, right?
No, Callum Smith, sorry. Who else? Come on, out of Matchroom's fighters. Against each other, shall we say? To make up a pay-per-view that you would actually pay for, guys. What about you, Smido? What do you think?
Against each other, it needs to include De Gale, as you've mentioned, probably Dillian White and Chisora again. We wouldn't mind that being as part of, not the main topic of. It would probably have to include Brook. I'll take AJ out of it because he's a different league, as I've mentioned before. So yeah, I mean, the best pay-per-view we could put on now would probably be Bellew back down at Cruiser for Bradis. Brook against Spence, as has been mentioned. Dillian White and Chisora in a rematch. That'll do me nicely. I wouldn't even have to have De Gale on that. That'll do me lovely as a pay-per-view.
Crawler Flanagan, add that on the bill.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think. I'm sure he's fighters I know. Well, obviously, if you're talking about Callum Smith, what about George Groves? I mean, okay, he's not technically a matchroom fighter, but obviously, him and Serlin do like swap overs and stuff. They send a few fighters to Germany and a few fighters to Britain and stuff. Vice versa. Nobody really kind of rates Groves nowadays. So that's the only thing.
Luke Campbell versus O'Hara Davies.
Could have Campbell versus Cardle for the British title, like we want.
Yeah,
we do. Yeah.
Frankie Gavin's still kicking around, I suppose. Who could beat his ass up?
Anyone.
O'Hara Davis, put him in with Frankie Gavin, I suppose.
Well, he's been sparring Stephen Ormond over the last weekend, so I suppose we could stick that one on for the crack, as they say.
They hate each other, don't they, them two, yeah?
Yeah. Ormond's going over to spar Flanagan, I think, next week as well, in preparation. Who's Flanagan fighting again? Isn't it Petrov or somebody?
That's some knobhead we've never heard of.
Petr Petrov. I think Chino knocked him out. I don't know if it is him, though. I need to double check.
Yeah, it's
I wonder who Flanagan will fight afterwards, or maybe he'll move up or something. We shall see. Yeah, I think he will. Right, I've found 2 other questions from last week after the pod, so I'm going to throw these out before we move to our previews. These previews that are never ever coming. Right, hey to Dave, get your head around this one from Joe Ringer. If Kell Brook beats Spence and Khan loses to Pac-Man, is a 50-50 purse split then fair between Khan and Brook?
I honestly
Dave?
don't give a flying shit about what these guys get paid. I don't give a shit about Khan and Brook, and if they ever fight each other. I think Pacquiao Khan and Brook Spence are more interesting fights. You can whatever they deserve, they're going to negotiate themselves. I really don't give a damn. I hope both of them lose. So yeah. But I just wanted to drop in real quick. I told our listeners if they voted on this poll, I would put the results up. Asked them which was more satisfying tonight, David Haye's L or Danny Garcia's L. Interestingly, it's about 70-30 Danny Garcia. They found that more satisfying. I mean, maybe perhaps it was because there was no injury involved.
Because he does a prick as well.
Thanks for that, Dave. Finally, more of a comment than a question. Ben, a quick one from you on this. Apparently, the WBC are enforcing Deontay Wilder to defend against Bermain Stiverne in a rematch. Obviously, it's a rematch we all wanted to see. Deontay Wilder's going to fight nobody, is he, Ben? I think as Tommy Roosh pointed out, he said with the fallback of the Brazil fight, i.e. the fight they had in the lobby afterwards, plus the odd injury, there's Wilder's next 3 years as champion sorted. It's becoming a bit of a joke, Ben, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I can't see him doing anything. Maybe when he's ready to give up and cash out, he'll come over here and fight someone, or fight whoever the top prospect is or the moneymaker is in America. But I can't see him actually fighting anyone of any substance. His last performance, like we said last week, was horrendous. So yeah, I think I don't expect anything more from him in the near future. Just people like Brazil.
Completely left field for Wilder. Could he
Yes.
edge towards the Marciano unbeaten and retire record, honestly?
That's a good shout, Smitho. The way he's going, he is.
Who's
Who
that?
was it? He's on about Wilder getting to the Marciano record, Andy. But who was it the other day? I think it was on the Boxing Rant I was listening, and Doug Fisher was on, and he said that Wilder's 4 or 5 defences, however he's made, none of them have actually been in the Ring Magazine top 10. How on earth has he managed to get away with this? I know the Povetkin fight obviously fell through in the meantime, but I think 4 of his defences, none of those fighters have actually been in the Ring Magazine top 10, and this is a WBC champion.
His career is so manufactured it's untrue. He is so shit it's untrue. He is going to get knocked out so fucking bad off AJ, it's going to be untrue, baby. He is fucking awful.
we have to really trash the WBC for mandating next I don't think we did this last week, ridiculous rematch between Deontay Wilder and Bermane Stiverne. I mean, he didn't fight in 2016 at all. And now he's the mandatory for the WBC title. Maybe he lost basically every round against Wilder. Maybe he had like 10 seconds out of one of the rounds.
And he was ill. Dehydrated, apparently. How the fucking heavyweight becomes dehydrated because he's a fat bastard.
It stinks, Dave. There's something going on. It stinks.
Well, see, the thing is,
he had Derek Rossi, and he couldn't even convincingly beat him. So, I mean, how has he earned this?
Well, he's not earned it as such, but the thing is, he's had a ranking as such for a long time that fucking Povetkin's fucked up twice. He's got this chance just by pure circumstances. You know, as I say, there is probably other deserving fighters, but who? Everybody else is tied up. We just seen what Haye's all about. Would Tony Bellew fight him? Maybe. Pulev, what's happening with him? Ortiz has went off the fucking radar. He's meant to be highly ranked. Dillian White, he's wanting to fight fucking Tony Bellew rather than rematch Del Boy. Takam, Andy Ruiz. These are the guys we're talking about who are next in line for the next WBC title shot. Whack, Washington, Duhafis, Elenius maybe. Fuck me, man. That WBC rankings is absolute putrid.
So it could have been worse, Andy.
It could have been, mate. I mean, he needs unification fights, not as Parker and not as AJ. I know the WBA is meant to be vacant at the minute, but is Lucas Brown no fighting for that one shortly? Or they can't even get a bid for that one yet, can they? But
I don't know. Said it before. Said it again, Dave. Wilder needs to be punching the fellow champions if his hands are that bad.
Does Tyson Fury have any belts left?
No. Apart from the ring title or a lineal title as such, I suppose.
Shit.
Right, let's move on, guys. Let's pair on through. Bellew of the Week's coming up at the end of the show. There's a lot of really strong candidates, so you want to hang around for that. There's been some real shit talked, as you can imagine, by boxers, fans, pundits, analysts alike, and us as well. We talk a bit of shit too, so you can nominate us.
Battles in the pub. That was awesome last night, man. Fucking hell.
Andy enjoyed it. Right, first of all, fights for next week. Andy, very brief word you want to say about Saturday night. Juan Francisco Estrada's fighting vacant WBC silver title. His opponent's not that good. Is it just to sort of keep busy at the highest level type fight?
Yeah, well, I think, mate, it's a move up in weight to super flyweight now, isn't it? So he's, you say WBC super silver title, sorry.
Silver, so yeah.
Aye, so he'll be in line now, I suppose. Who was the guy who fucking fought for it in Japan the other week? Then he got, was it a Thai fighter? That's what it was. And he got knocked the fuck out just during the week there. That was at flyweight. Sorry, I'm talking nonsense. So he's basically fighting for potentially the Roman Gonzalez rematch.
Yes.
That's good. Who's he fighting?
Salinas, a guy 20-3. I don't think he's of any great note. It's a ranking fight, isn't it? It's just to get him pushed up the rankings, I think, to the mandatory.
Suppose it is. I'm just trying to have a quick look through WBC rank. What's that guy's name?
Anoa Salinas or Salas or something. I've clicked off the page now.
He's not on the fucking. He's not in the WBC rankings. Mind you, there's. In fact, Schweizer's ranked number 3. There you go. As you say, but keep busy fights. Something kind of get a rankings fight and then get yourself into position to fight either Kudras or Ringuveze. Maybe Kudras at some point. I like to see Estrada against Kudras. I mean, the winner fights the winner of Gonzalez against the Thai fighter. Have a decent wee kind of round robin, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Right, let's throw these out to the panel then. Anyone who wants to speak about them. Saturday the 11th of March in Germany, Wilfried Sauerland is back on the beat. Jack Kulkai against Demetrius Andrade. This fight was supposed to take place a while back and Andrade pulled out, I think, but it's finally happening. We'd expect the American fighter Old Boo Boo to win this one. Anybody else think about this?
Yeah, I agree. I think Andrade would probably win it pretty handily. I mean, Kulkai is okay. He's okay. He's not got the power though. He's quite. I think he's quite short for that weight division. And Andrade's quite a big dude. But to be honest, Kulkai's never fought anybody of any note. Goes the distance in pretty much all his fights, as I say. I think most of his knockouts came early doors against the usual scrubs, but then he dropped a kind of 12-round decision against some sort of Argentinian guy, and I think he won the rematch and stuff. So I think if Andrade is what we all expect him to be, but then again, after what happened last night, you just never know. You think you're experts, and then the shit hits the fan, so you never know. But I do expect Andrade to win this and win it pretty comfortably.
My question is, if a piece of shit fight like this falls through, why would you re-sign it? It's just a time waster.
It's the WBA, mate, isn't it? It's these mandatory situations again.
Andrade is a time waster though, Dave. I mean, he's just pissing his
Yeah.
career away at the moment. Wasn't he? Get a frigging move on.
Didn't Andre Ward, doesn't it? He's too busy fighting his managers in court and stuff.
He should just move up to middleweight now before it's too late, before his
This
prime is gone.
This was a cunt that came back to boxing and says he wanted a 50-50 split to fight Miguel Cotto.
Corkai's fought nobody, has he? Dennis Hogan's the only real name on his record that I recognise, and that's just because he was an Australian, originally from Kildare, I think, and he was on IrishBoxing.com interview. Corkai's fought pretty much shit. Like, I mean, I don't know whether Adam or Ben want to comment on this before we move on, but Andrade, probably stop him, maybe points.
I've got no comment really, Steve.
No problem. Right, now this fight I'm looking forward to. Again, whoever wants to jump in, jump in. David Lemieux against Curtis Stevens. It's still going on as far as I know. Turning Stone Resort and Casino. It's going to go to points probably. It's one of those fights, isn't it? It's a can't miss. They're going to be hitting each other hard. It's going to blow up in our face, but hopefully it doesn't, and he'll be able to get the win. Also, Yuriorkis Gamboa's on the undercard, and Diego De La Hoya. But let's talk Lemieux Stevens. I mean, you're not a boxing fan, really, if you're not looking forward to this, guys, really, are you?
What fight was that, mate?
I think
Lemieux
it's a
against
cracker.
Stevens.
Well, I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
I'm actually putting Stevens up for a Bellew of the Week award over this fight, actually. I mean, the thing is, the good thing about this fight, at least you might see a fucking knockout. And that's what you want. You want to see violence. You want to see guys fucking twitching on the canvas and that, you know. So this fight could deliver it. But Stevens is a wee bastard. I know Donnie's talked about it a few times, and I'm not a big lover of Lemieux either. Lemieux's overrated. Well, he was overrated when he was coming through as well. So I'm not over enamoured, but I'll watch it because we might get a knockout.
I'm picking Stevens in this. I think that obviously they've both got power, good, very good power, the pair of them, to be fair. But I'm picking Stevens. I just think he's got. I don't know. I think following, obviously, I know they've both lost to Golovkin, but following the Golovkin loss, I don't know whether Lemieux has kind of been to the top of the mountain or his mountain, i.e., the IBF mountain, got paid a few quid, and then is he that bothered? I don't know. I think Stevens wants it more, to be fair.
My gut tells me that one or both of these guys is going to go to their boxing game plan, and it's going to be like a shit fest. I mean, we've seen it happen before with both guys. Lemieux against Golovkin, where he just decided to become a jabber and a mover and failed miserably. Stevens has done it on more than one occasion. I just worry that's going to happen because they're going to be gun shy.
Curtis Stevens' middle name is Delroy, by the way.
Is this next week, that fight?
Yeah, it's on the 11th. I think it's on HBO, isn't it? Golden Boy. Yeah, HBO, USA, Latin America, Canal Space, whatever that means.
Oh, talk about HBO. Did anybody see the Top Rank card that got tweeted out the other day?
No.
Oscar Valdez against is it Mariaga, and Gilberto Ramirez against
Yes.
somebody. It's fucking pay-per-view, man.
Yes, I did. I can't remember the third fight, but there's some good ones on there.
But pay-per-view? Fucking hell.
No.
Fucking Top Rank pay-per-view. Trust me, I tweeted the picture out earlier on there. Don't know how much it is, though.
Right, Ben, do you have anything to say about Lemieux Stevens?
No, not really. I just hope someone gets knocked out, and that's it. Just see some nice action. That's all.
Good stuff. Andy, Karim Guerfi against Stefan Jamoy. John Mark Mormeck's promoting this one, European title fight. That might be a decent scrap, actually.
Gaufrey, now that's the one that I predicted that would knock out one. It was Ryan Farag, I think it was.
Yes, that's right.
That'll be right, aye. So that'll be in France, is it?
Yeah, it is. It's in. It just says Fédération Française de Boxe, or wherever the hell that is.
Aye.
No, I think Jamoy's. He's not the best, is he? But Guerfi's pretty decent.
What Jamoy is it? There's two of them.
Stefan, 31-7. He's the one who lost to Quigg, would it be? No.
There's the one that beat Quigg, and I think Santa Cruz beat him as well coming up when he went the distance with McDonnell. I'm going to go for Gaufrey in that one, mate, and I'll make this the mistake this time. I'm going to go for my knockout as well.
Okay, I'm sure nobody else gives a shit about
I
that.
see Richard Comey's fighting next week in fucking Ghana.
Yeah, that's right. His opponent's not too bad either.
He's staying active.
Max Bursak, that's who Ramirez is fighting. Max fucking Bursak. My Bossack, man. Jesus Christ, that's a bad fight.
So what was supposed to be happening next week was a decent card. Well, not really a decent card, but a decent fight between Jermell Charlo and Charles Hatley, which is now off thanks to freaking Oscar Escandón injuring his vagina or whatever. All right, this was crap because Gary Russell Jr., who never fights, and Oscar Escandón, who's crap, and has this strange love affair with Al Heyman, where Heyman somehow managed to finagle him the decision against Tyson Cave in 2014. I think that was like the very beginning of PBC or the end of Friday Night Fights, one or the other.
Who was that against Tyson Cave, sorry?
Oscar Escandón.
Tyson Cave got knocked out in about 2010 by Willie Casey.
Yeah, Tyson Cave is nothing special, but he clearly outworked and dominated. Well, not quite dominated. It was mildly competitive early, but he clearly beat Oscar Escandón, and I assume Heyman finagled his way to getting his guy Escandón, who is a plotter and pretty much just wank. He got him a decision in that fight, which was a robbery. From there, he went on to lose to Moises Flores, got a knockout against Robinson Castellanos. He's not good. He even got knocked down in that fight. Never heard of Castellanos, but somehow he's now going to be fighting. I don't know. They postponed it. He's going to be fighting Gary Russell Jr. I don't know what Heyman sees in this guy or why he thinks he's worthy. But Oscar Escandón, anyway, he got injured this week or last week, and now the whole card is off. I mean, why? First of all, why was that the main event? Gary Russell Jr. never fights. No one knows or cares, and now it's off anyway. And the title fight with Hadley and Jermell is much better. I mean, people know them. They've been shown on Showtime and PBC before. Gary Russell Jr. hasn't been seen in like not quite a year, almost a year against Patrick Hyland. So. Well, now it's going to be over a year since he...
There's been more signs of Lord looking than fucking Gary Russell Jr. over the last 2 months.
Yeah. and we've seen his younger brother, Gary Antoine Russell, in the Olympics more recently than we've seen him. And by the way, Antoine Russell I like him a lot better than his big brother. He was robbed in the Olympics, and I think he has more potential as a pro because he actually seems to want to fight. So I'm annoyed at the PBC and Heyman for screwing this up. I'm not privy to the data that they have to make these decisions. Like, does Gary Russell somehow do good numbers for them? For whatever reason, because this Gary Russell Jr. fight is not happening, they scrapped the whole card, and now we don't get to see this Charlo Hatley fight, which actually could have been pretty good.
Well, Dave, you might not be able to see that, but one thing you will be able to see, hopefully next Friday evening, I will be in attendance at the Waterfront Hall, Belfast. Final comment of the previews. Jamie Conlon fighting Yader Cardoza for the vacant WBC International Silver title. I'm going to this one, Andy. There's a couple of decent fights on the undercard. I know that you lot will not probably be interested, but Tyrone McKenna against Jake Haney, and especially Declan Geraghty against James Tennyson. There'll be two good fights, and the rest of them, there's about... classic sort of Frank, about 10 fights down the card. Paddy Barnes, Phil Sutcliffe, Marco McCulloch. Most of them haven't got opponents yet. Kevin Satchel and Gary Corcoran are both supposed to be on that as well for some reason. Conlon, I tell you what, he has his limitations and everything, but he's a real nice kid, Andy, and he's some fighter. Some of the best fights that I've ever seen ringside live have involved Jamie Conlon. He's just a blood and guts warrior. He will give his all on Friday night.
You're right, mate. I remember when Mick on the show, Mick was saying, what the fuck are you doing? You can actually box it in, ego to war and that, but it's like everything else. It's the animal instinct in you. Once you get tagged in that, you're like a cunt. You want to cement them right back. I've not seen this guy. He's fighting he's Nicaraguan or something, and he's kind of like fought his entire career there, basically. But
yeah, he's not great.
I'm sure he's fought for a world title at one point. I'm sure he has. I need to go and double check that, but I'm pretty certain this guy's fought for a world title.
Well, that means he's world level then.
Yeah, well, it's few and far between nowadays, isn't it? But you would think Jamie's going to do the business here. It'll probably be for some sort of kind of title elimination, maybe. But it's a super flyweight, so
yes, you're quite right. By the way, Andy, he has fought for a world title. He lost in 2013 in Mexico to Adrian Hernandez for the WBC World Light Flyweight title.
I'm sure Hernandez beat Wonkon Jam, or I might be wrong about that one, but he beat some sort of kind of highly touted Asian fighter. But I think he must be a fair age actually. This guy he's fighting then. Adrian
22 and 10.
What age is he then? 28. There you go. So
yeah, 28.
The picture I'm looking at actually looks like a double hard bastard. He's in good shape in that, but I think Jamie should do the business here. Victor Laughlin's a referee as well, so we might get another blood and guts fight there as well. So how Vic likes to kind of let the fights go and stuff like that. The best in the business, so should be good. That's in Box Nation, that card, isn't it?
It's on Box Nation. He got knocked out in 2014, Cardoza by Naoya Inoue. So that was Inoue's fifth or sixth fight. So
There you go.
This is for
Yeah.
WBC International Silver Super Flyweight.
yes, that's right.
Great.
Good title, Dave.
Well, you love it, right? You love a bullshit title, as you say.
Yeah, well, sort of. Ben, any comments, Smido?
No, don't care.
Yeah, nothing from me.
I don't know, that's not very nice.
So let's take it that German card's on the Saturday, and that other one's on the Friday. Aye, right,
Yeah.
okay. So there's not really much. So it'll be decent. It'll be a decent time for bed next week. You know, I'll be fucking trying to stay up and watch shit.
Oh, you'll be going in the love tunnel, Andy, on Saturday nights rather than watching boxing.
Well, I'm overdue, mate. I'm overdue, so my balls need draining, baby.
Ben, any comments on draining balls or Jamie Conlon?
No, neither on either, to be honest with you. On Jamie Conlon, I think, yeah, next week. I hope it's an exciting fight. I want some more action from Jamie Conlon next week. Other than that, no, that's it.
Right, on to the Bellew of the Week. A lot of people were shouting about, oh, you got to bring the Bellew of the Week back, the theme tune this week. And I had planned on putting it on YouTube, but I completely forgot. So here we are, and I haven't got it to play. Hopefully Kurt will be listening, and he'll be able to stick it onto the iTunes download, as he used to, seeing as it was...
Kurt's still alive?
Yeah.
Kurt's still alive, as far as I know. He's working tonight, and hopefully he'll put it on, Smido. But I haven't got it up in time here, unfortunately. Couldn't get it up tonight, guys. So, you know, that's just the way it is, unfortunately. Andy will know all about that. Right. Let's have a look at my list, my inaugural list here. Okay, the Boxing Kingdom. Now, this could be the real one. It could be the fake one. But for anyone who's going to tweet me, I don't give a shit whether it's real or fake because it's sent in to me. It was sent in to me, so I'm going to read it out. John Pascal was putting out some tweets this week, and he said, money doesn't make you rich, but it sure does pay the bills. #money. Great stuff from John there. And the Boxing Kingdom said, you would earn more if you weren't ducking Callum Smith. Conveniently moved to light heavyweight because he's at 168. And John Pascal says, who the fuck is he? And then William Byrne jumps in and says, he's the future pound for pound. He's got rapid fire fists that no man can stand up to at 168, in my opinion. Like, hope you good, champ. Oh, dear.
Oh, God.
That's bad stuff. But anyway, it gets worse. Sky Sports. Derry Matthews, apparently they have to have someone in the mathematical department because they totted up all the fights that he's had, and they said that he's had 51. When in fact, I think he's had 61. Is that right? Maybe my maths aren't working out at this short notice, but anyway, their maths weren't working out according to Mikey Hugh, who sent this one in. So Bellew of the Week for them. Now I'm going to omit this next one, because someone sent this to me. It was a poll on Twitter, and it said, who do you think is going to win? Haye versus Bellew. Haye 51%, Bellew 49%. Well, that's not Bellew of the Week, is it? The Bellew of the Week's on us for that one now, I'm afraid. Because Tony went and did the business. So I'm going to have to take it off the list. So I'll scratch that. There we go. Right, The Sun, great boxing publication that they are. They said Gennady Triple G Golovkin offers to boil down to 54 pounds to challenge Floyd Mayweather at super middleweight.
Fucking hell.
They're only like 3 years late with that.
And also, not even that, it was a double Bellew because Ben also noticed in the article, it said, apparently, according to the article, it said Triple G had already beaten Danny Jacobs. That was on his list of great wins. So not only was he boiling down to super middle to fight Floyd at 154, but he'd also beaten Jacobs. So a pretty shit piece from the Sun altogether on there. Right, Bristol Philly has jumped in, and he was talking to Eddie Hearn about the cruiserweights. I think someone was saying, why doesn't Bellew go down and fight Bradis and Usyk? And he basically ducked them. This was before the Haye fight. And Bristol Phil said, cruiserweight is arguably the worst division in boxing. There's no elite fighters at cruiserweight. It's dead.
Whoa.
You got some slagging for that, Smido?
That's not cool.
That's Bristol Phil. Right, World Boxing News. They said Gennady Golovkin works out for the media ahead of his upcoming clash with Danny Garcia on March the 18th. It's a typo, guys. Well, we'll have to let them off with that. We all make them. Jay at CFILXX and a load of X and V's on Twitter says, Eddie Hearn and Special K Brook. This is a great fight, Kell versus Spence. I'm backing Kell 100%. This is the special one who showed the world how to outbox Triple G.
Funny enough, actually, that Eddie Hearn made the excuse that he was injured last night, but never made the excuse for David Haye. And for Bellew at the same time, you know.
He stopped it on an injury before Kel could knock him out.
You know, fucking hell.
I'm sure you guys would have seen this next one from Strictly Boxing fans. Put it up. Bellew of the week for Tony. Bellew forgot that he had swore literally a minute before warning David Haye about it. This is brilliant.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was good, wasn't it? Good old Tony. Right, Sky have nominated again. Apparently, Jamie McDonnell versus Ray Vargas is now on demand,
Yes.
and not Gavin. This I can't stand this prick. This is this Adrian Durham on Talk Sport. He's like a shock jock. He knows nothing about boxing, and he just basically comes off with any sort of bullshit. Apparently, a poll for Talk Sport Drive sent in by Michael Gearty. After David Haye told Talk Sport, "I'm training to not punch his head, but punch through Bellew's head. Should the fight be called off?" asked Talk Sport. They're just shock jocks, Andy. They just want people to ring in and vent.
They are wankers, mate. But to be honest, Durham winds up the Celtic fans something awful, so he's not.
Yeah, I like Durham. He winds up Arsenal fans as well.
He's not too bad, but I know what I mean. I'll put it this way. I remember the time he actually fucking called out Jamie Carragher, and Jamie Carragher phoned in the show. He fucking shat his pants, by the way. His dick went up his fucking colon quicker than a fucking rat.
Can't stand these wankers, Andy, who try to encourage people to call in who talk shit about boxing and always negative all the time.
See, the thing is, mate, I mean, that is like a... How do I say it? You know, that's a well-known sports show, right? So it can, you know, the casual listener is going to have it on in the car, driving up and down the country, going to work and stuff like that, and you get shit like that. And, you know, as I say today, I spoke to two casuals today, actually, who fucking bought that fight last night, and I was slagging them off. I says, "What'd you think of that fight?" "Oh, it was fucking brilliant. You should make an undercard." "Brilliant, mate. It was good to see the woman get a chance as well." I'm like, die. Just fucking die.
Anyway, Adrian's going on the list for that one. Also on the list, a regular appearer now, alongside Eddie and Spencer Fearon, is Oscar De La Hoya. He must be back on the old talcum powder. He said, Canelo versus Chavez is a clash that will unite the world.
He's back on the sniff. He's back on the sniff, definitely. Got to be.
Right, let's have a look. What else have we got? Jack Rice has nominated a Bellew of the Week to anyone who draws the smiling portraits of boxers. It's akin to an anonymous love letter. Fucking bizarre. Some girl apparently had tweeted a picture of Anthony Joshua to him, and he retweeted it, and it was one of these, you know, they've drawn it themselves.
Oh, Christ almighty.
Did anybody see this one? Matchroom Boxing put up the picture of Dave, the White Rhino Allen, and David Howe weighing in. And the White Rhino looked like he had a gym sock shoved down his shorts.
Yeah.
Aye. And somebody actually, I'm going to bring that one up actually. Who was it? Somebody on Twitter says to me,
Chris Ellis, is that seriously his knob?
That's the one. So you can put her in there as well. Is that seriously his knob?
No, this one. I'm going to say now, this is going to be my nomination. This is a brilliant one. And you know what? I can't even remember who sent it in to me. I do apologise because I've screenshotted it without your name on. So whoever it was, tweet out to me because this was brilliant. Tony Bellew has been interviewed before the David Haye fight, and he said, Michael Griffin...
Oh, I've got the name, mate.
It's
Jack H9320 sent that one in.
Excellent. Okay. Michael Griffin, who was the referee for the Stevenson-Bellew fight, I believe. Michael Griffin came up to me and said, "I'm so happy you've become world champion, Tony. Every time you hit Adonis, the noise he was making, you was hurting him," Bellew explained. "I thanked him for that and said the better man won." And Michael said, "No, you don't realise. You were the closest man to ever beat him, and I've seen. You were hurting him, and I've refereed a lot of fights." Fake news, man. Fake news.
Oh, Donald Trump with a fucking field day, but I've just retweeted that one there, so you can all retweet that.
Tony came so close to beating Adonis Smido. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, the most embarrassing performance by a Brit in a world title fight this century.
Oh, that was a brilliant one. Right, Rory McGonigal, another friend of mine, sent this in. Bellew of the Week for Adam Smith, not you, Smido, the fake one. At the undercard presser for Eggington versus Malignaggi, he turned to introduce Paulie and said, "Paulie, you've been on with some great fighters in your career." And then he proceeded to name everyone who's ever beaten him.
Including Brunner's side piece.
Oh, dear. Some belters. Right, Richard Moto tweeted at Eddie Hearn, "Eddie, why not put Ortiz versus Briggs on? Then the winner faces Haye. Then the winner of Ortiz versus Briggs versus Haye faces Joshua, all in 2017. I should promote boxing, says Richard.
Oh dear.
I don't know much about this one, but the wrestling fans amongst us, apparently Bellew of the week for O'Hara Davis to coming out to the Undertaker's theme music. Does that mean anything to anybody?
Well, aye, it does, because I mentioned it to Walks and Davey Lee last night and stuff. I mean, who was it? Was it Leon that was saying about, and maybe Ben was talking about how it's all fucking gimmick and all contrived now with the Matchroom cars. This was another example of it. Just fucking putting a WWE theme tune to a legendary wrestler, which I didn't watch, but I'm told he's a legend and stuff. But it was just pure and utter fucking cringe, man. You're just saying to yourself, I just want you to get knocked the fuck out.
Fair enough. Thanks for clearing that one up. What about our friend Andy Craig Stephen? Excellent announcer that he is, but according to Steve Mank, apparently a rare error from Craig last night for announcing Derry Matthews as a former world champion. It's not often that Craig makes mistakes. He is very good.
He is really good, mate. Unless you're going to be classing interim titles as real world titles, but everybody knows deep down in his heart that he's not a world champion. And I did notice some of the more respected writers out there kind of saying the same thing. So we'll leave it at that. I mean, he's done well in his career, British champion, interim title and that. He did fight for a world title as well, get schooled off or handled off Flanagan. And got knocked out of Luke Campbell, so it's a shame. But no, definitely not world champion.
Our friend Matt on Twitter apparently bet on Tony Bellew to knock out Haye last night, so fair play to him. He's also nominated Tommy, the Guru Allen, for, what was it, Tommy tweeted out 10 quid to everyone if Bellew goes past 4?
Yeah, he's had over like 10,000 retweets, and then he's not tweeted anything all day, and now he's put another pinned tweet up, and it said Guru giveaway special. If Jacobs makes it past round 4, I'll give everyone who retweets this a tenner.
But Shep last night, he lost £300 fucking betting on the Haye knockout.
I'm wondering if Tommy's tweet's legally binding, because like you get people arrested for like abusing people on Twitter and stuff. I want to know if Tommy's tweet is.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, people are threatening to like airports.
I noticed that Tommy covered his ass by tweeting out a picture of some opera singer and said, "There, as promised, a tenor." And it like TN OR.
It was Pavarotti. But that's what I'm saying. Fucking Tommy, if that is true, Ben, Tommy's deleting his account right fucking now. He's due about 10 grand in fucking backdated bets and stuff like that.
More than that, it's 100 grand.
Oh yeah, it'd be 100 grand, wouldn't it? If he's it'd be 100 grand.
Yeah, because he put in the chat last night. He put in the chat after it just happened. He said, my bank account's currently minus 97 grand."
Right, so we'll put Tommy down anyway. Rick Laws sent this one in. Apparently, Abdullah on Twitter said, "No word of a lie, O'Hara Davis fought like Mayweather yesterday."
Seen that.
Oh god, that's what I did see that.
And then Jimbo up north jumped in and said he was excellent, most promising British fighter I've seen in a long time, including AJ.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Bloody hell! Right, Alex Teamstream. Alex, former member of the pod. Hope you well. Alex Morris petitioned to change the Bellew of the week to the Haye of the week, with this as a sole entry. David Haye in fresh jibe at moronic Tony Bellew fans. Bet all of your dole money on him, said David Haye before the fight. It all got a bit nasty, didn't it? All that stupid shit.
As Leon says, you could end up with fucking people getting their faces caved in and stuff. But at the same time, it's probably settled a bit in that. I was kind of surprised how many Scousers actually afforded to go to London yesterday, actually, as well. So
I tell you what, that Liverpool press conference, like O'Hara Davis, when I interviewed him, he would not move off that stage, and he had a guy.
Poisonous.
He had a guy stood next to him. No word of a lie. My cousin was stood on the stage, and this guy was stood on the floor, and he was still taller than my cousin. This guy was a giant, and he was guarding O'Hara Davis. O'Hara Davis wouldn't move an inch off that stage. He was frightened. It was wild in there on Monday.
Rocco sent this one in earlier. He sent us the clip as well. He recorded it off TalkSport again from a guy called Bob Ballard. I think he must be a presenter on TalkSport. And he said, what was he saying? Oh yeah, he said apparently Fury has lost that much weight that he doesn't even think he would be a heavyweight at the moment. He's lost that much.
Fuck off.
I don't know what pictures he's seen, Smitho.
Saying that, someone told me this week that Tyson has been training again. I don't know where or what he looks like.
In the pub.
He's not. He said he's not. Doesn't look like the pictures that are going around. But I don't know how true that is. Or...
His name is no longer Tyson. It's Dyson Fury.
Oh, is that what he's calling himself?
No, that's what I call him now.
Bring that shit up.
Speaking.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay, fair enough. With the old U-back nostrils.
Speaking of that, Tyson should be down for Bellew of the Week this week for his tweet. I retweeted it. Let me just check it out here. He tweeted it last night after the fight. Now we all know why David Gay pulled out twice versus the Furious One. Say no more, but told you so, Gypsy King. And then he put about like 10 crying, laughing emojis.
Nomination. I'm assuming this is going for BoxRec. I don't know if this is true or not, but someone tweeted this into us. Apparently, the new world number 2 at heavyweight
Bellew.
is Bellew.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Algorithms.
Bloody hell! And Deontay Wilder's 3, Luis Ortiz is 4.
BoxRec's aid plan for their rankings. There was something posted up during the week there. I think that's what it was. Someone that tweeted out that the top 8 on BoxRec at cruiserweight says it's shite. There's not one pay-per-view fighter there. I'm like, fucking hell! Is that the intelligence of the fucking casual fan nowadays?
I think when it comes to BoxRec, Andy, we just have to put aside. I'm not going to get all et up and excited about these rankings. They're doing it by algorithms, like Smido says. It's all computerized. Who gives a fuck? At the end of the day, BoxRec is a brilliant resource for finding records and research and stuff. So I'm not really too bothered about their rankings.
But at the same time, see those 8 fighters that were named. I would gladly watch any of those guys fight each other. They're fucking quality fights.
Yeah.
Okay, Tommy Roosh, friend of the pod, sent this in. Apparently, Lucas Brown and Dave Allen were having a bit of a loving on Twitter, saying they were great mates and everything. And Kev Megan jumped in and said, "Great response from the two of you there. Nice change to see 2 genuine, honest boxers." Yeah, honest Lucas Brown. Like, he's failed how many frigging drug tests.
I thought he deleted his Twitter because he was tired of getting trolled.
He's back.
Okay.
He's back with a vengeance. Right, there's about 25 there.
Right,
anyone else want to throw any in, Andy? Go ahead.
Tony Bellew again for basically telling David Haye to stop swearing because there's kids present, and then he actually literally swore like a minute beforehand. Curtis Stevens for setting up a GoFundMe page for the funeral or hospital bills for David Lemieux. He's a cheeky bastard. Maybe he did that thing with the coffin for the Golovkin fight, and I really wanted to see him get smashed. Yeah. Chris Ellis, before they mentioned him. Jack, he mentioned that guy about Michael Griffin. Rick Law mentioned about O'Hara Davis. AJ. Remember AJ was going on last night? I said at the start of the show that he's been speaking to people who are physical specialists and that, and it was David Haye's knee had went, no his ankle. And literally like 2 seconds later, they went into a caption between rounds, and there's Shane wrapping up David Haye's ankle. And AJ's response, silence. And what else was it? Brian King sent me this one for Francis Savage. He says, thought it was a strange fight in a way. Scored at 116-115 to Thurman, but he was clearly dominant. Hashtag 2-time. And that's
how about Shane McGuigan for belting the Spectator?
That was a great right hand, by the way.
Former Ulster champion, amateur champion Shane McGuigan.
I see people. I see some of the Red Pops have picked it up as well.
Been a very rough 2017 for him so far.
Well, Josh Taylor
hasn't been good, has he?
Josh Taylor won a fight, so he's had at least one win this year.
Okay, whoever that is.
Josh, fuck.
Come on, Dave. Sorry, Ben, were you going to jump in there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know what you guys think of this one, but Spencer Fearon tweeted this earlier today. Dillian White wants to fight the best. Bellew is one of the best. Great fight for pay-per-view. I don't know.
Yep, happy to put that on because Spencer's a prick.
Steve, it's not often really that I get to gloat for getting something spectacularly right. I normally get stuff spectacularly wrong. So my 2 official nominations are for Ben North, who nominated me for Bellew of the Week for saying that Bellew would win even before the fight taken place. So definitely Ben North gets one. I could nominate hundreds of people, to be honest, but I'm just giving you a quick snapshot. Mainly in replies to my betting slip for Bellew. Sam Keane 1 said, "Wasted your money, pal." Sam Alexander said absolutely no logic to your pick. Cal Stone said 90% of Haye's sparring partners would beat Bellew. It's a bigger mismatch than all three of AJ's pathetic world title fights. You're mad was his one to me. And then I'm just looking for the best one. The best one. This was Dominic Henry is my second nomination, because when I said that Bellew would win, he said that I should be sectioned or certified.
Oh, I know Dominic. I'll text Dominic. I know him.
Yeah, Dominic Henry's getting one for saying that I should be sectioned. I had some decent memes coming through. Lee Num Tapestry, I know he tweets in a few times. You've got too much money to waste if you ask me. Someone Choppy_Cookie just sent me a message saying #L. So yeah, there's been some good ones. One of the highlights was from Foley on Twitter. Everyone laughed at you for your predictions. Hats off to you, sir. Thank you very much, Foley.
This is you right now, Smido. How much did you win? How much did you actually win?
Oh, not a lot, about 100 quid.
Right. Okay, go ahead then, Smith. Who are you going for in this Bellew thing?
I'm going to vote for the bloke that said O'Hara Davis looked like a young Mayweather and he's the best prospect in the country.
Abdullah. Okay, that's one for Abdullah.
Abdullah.
Ben?
I'm going for Abdullah as well. That was ridiculous.
I'm thinking the same actually here. Abdullah as well for me, I think. But he didn't want to get to Bellew again, do you? So he's won it that often. So Abdullah, congratulations! I've got to get to you, mate. So that's going to be. He's going to win it now, eh?
Yeah, he's going to have to win it. Dave, yours is academic. I was going to go for Tony / Michael Griffin, but it doesn't really matter now. Go on.
I'll go with the Sun for that fuck up.
The Sun. Okay, then. Well, this week it is Abdullah. We'll try and find his Twitter and tweet him just to let him know that he's won an award. So, Abdullah, congratulations. Right. I think that's it. I'm sure there's plenty more, but I've had enough now. That's 2.5 hours of free content you've got there. Hope everybody's enjoyed the show, and if not, then, well, go fuck yourselves, I suppose. Anybody want to add anything in before we jack on out of here?
Rest in peace, David Haye's career.
Fuck Joe Gallagher.
What's he done?
He's Joe Gallagher.
He probably shagged some dogs, eh?
I don't know, but that wasn't me started all that shit up, so didn't I?
That was Dave's Brian King impression.
Yep.
His generic UK, Europe impression.
No, we're not.
Right, Smido, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
And Ben as well. Dave the Hater Lowback, Andy Patterson. I'm Steve Wellings. We'll catch you all again next week, guys. Cheerio.